However, your and talk will be muted. During the public testimony portion of the meeting, you will be unmuted and then be able to comment. Please note that we cannot take questions until the public testimony portion. If you have a process question during the meeting, please email cityclerk@meridiancity.org. They will reply as quickly as possible. If you simply want to watch the meeting, we encourage you to watch the streaming on the city's YouTube channel. You can access that at meridiancity.org/live. With that, let's begin with the roll call. Madam Clerk.
Commissioner Stoddard,
Here.
Commissioner Lorcher,
Here.
Commissioner Yearsley,
Here.
Commissioner Seal,
Here.
absent are Commissioner Wheeler and Grace.
Okay. First item on the agenda is the adoption of the agenda. File number H 2022-0013 for Promenade Cottages subdivision will be open for the sole purpose of continuing to a regular scheduled meeting. Be open for that purpose only. So if there's anybody here tonight to testify for this application, we will not be taking testimony on them this evening. Can I get a motion to adopt the agenda as amended?
So moved.
Second. It's been moved and seconded to adopt the agenda. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
No opposed, motion carries. Next item on the agenda is the consent agenda. We have three things on the agenda. First is to approve the minutes of the October 20th, 2022 Planning and Zoning Commission meeting. We also have findings of fact, conclusions of law for the denial of a conditional use permit for the bridge at the village at Meridian, file number H 2022-0069, as well as findings of facts, conclusions of law for conditional use permit for the EICU 10-mile branch H 2022-0068. Can I get a motion to accept the consent agenda as presented?
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and seconded to adopt the consent agenda. All in favor, say aye.
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 No opposed, motion carries. At this time, I would like to briefly explain the public hearing process. We will open each item individually and begin with the staff report. Staff will report their findings on how the item adheres to the comprehensive plan and unified development code. After staff has made their presentation, the applicant will come forward to present their case and respond to staff comments. They will have 15 minutes to do so. After the applicant is finished, we will open the floor to public testimony. Each person will be called on only once during the public testimony. The clerk will call the names individually of those who have signed up on the website or in advance to testify. You will then be unmuted in Zoom, or you can come forward to the microphones in chamber. You need to state your name and address for the record, and you will have 3 minutes to address the commission. You have previously sent pictures or a presentation to the meeting. It will be displayed on the screen, and you can run the presentation yourself. You have established that you are speaking on behalf of a larger group like an HOA, where others from that group will allow you to speak on their behalf, meaning other people are willing to give their time to you. You will have up to 10 minutes. After all those who have signed up in advance have spoken, we will invite any others who may wish to testify. If you wish to speak on the topic, you may come forward in chambers, or if on Zoom, press the raise button app or raise hand button on the Zoom app. If you're only listening on a phone, please press *9 and wait for your name to be called. If you're listening on multiple devices, such as a computer and a phone, please be sure to mute the extra devices so we do not experience feedback and we can hear you clearly. When you're finished, the commission does not have any questions for you. You will return to your seat in chambers or muted on Zoom, and you will no longer have the ability to speak. And please remember, we will not call on you a second time. After all testimony has been heard, the applicant will be given another 10 minutes to come back and respond. When the applicant is finished responding to questions and concerns, we will close the public hearing, and commissioners will have an opportunity to discuss and hopefully be able to make final decisions or recommendations to City Council as needed. So at this time, I would like to open the public hearing for Promenade Cottages subdivision H 2022-0013 for continuation to December 15th.
Mr. Chair,
Commissioner Lorcher.
I move that Promenade Cottage subdivision H 2022-0013 be awarded their continuance for the hearing date of December 15th.
Second.
And moved and seconded to continue file number H 2022-0013 to the date of December 15th, 2022. All in favor, say aye.
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 None opposed, motion carries. Okay, this time, I'd like to open file number H 2022-0053 for Prairie Fire subdivision, and we will begin with staff report.
Good evening, Mr. Chair and Commissioners. The applicant is here to present the Prairie Fire subdivision. The applications are for annexation, zoning, and preliminary plat. The site consists of 3.1 acres of land zoned RUT in Ada County, located at 3539 North Locust Grove Road. There is no history on the property. The comprehensive plan flume designation is medium density residential. The applicant proposes to annex in 3.16 acres of land with an R8 zoning district. The property is designated as medium density residential in the flume contained in the comprehensive plan. This designation allows for units at a gross densities of 3 to 8 dwelling units per acre. The preliminary plat was submitted showing how the property is proposed to be subdivided and developed with 22 single-family residential detached dwelling units at a gross density of 6.96 units per acre, which is within the desired density range of the medium density residential designation. The subject property is an enclave surrounded by existing single-family residential detached homes. To the north is Quenzer Commons, west is Heritage Grove, east is Summerfield, and the church to the south, and Office Park to the north. The development is proposed to be an age-restricted 55+ community, and the applicant's narrative states that they have an agreement in place to merge this development with the Heritage Grove HOA. Access is proposed from the extension of the existing local stub street along West Prairie Fire Street on the west. Access is prohibited from North Locust Grove Road. ACHD is requiring the applicant to increase the radius of the cul-de-sac from 45 feet to 50 feet per district standards. The project is conditioned to comply with all ACHD's conditions of approval. The only landscape buffer that's required for this project is a 25-foot wide buffer that's required along North Locust Grove Road. Because the site is below 5 acres in size, open space and site amenities are not required per UDC 11-3G-3A. However, the applicant is providing 0.37 acres of common area to provide pedestrian access to the commercial properties located to the north and North Locust Grove Road. This area will be landscaped with trees, shrubs, and include a 5-foot micropath. Staff recommends that the applicant remove lot 11, block 1, along the northern property boundary. The micropath connection on the northern portion of the common lot adjacent to the commercial development is hidden behind lot 11, block 1, creating a potential safety issue for pedestrians. Pedestrian pathways on common lots shall be designated to reduce the incidence of crime and improve the quality of life. The applicant has provided us with 6 conceptual building elevations to demonstrate the style of homes proposed for this development. A mix of single-story and single-story with a bonus room homes are proposed. However, staff believes proposed elevations are not consistent with the Heritage Commons subdivision development. Staff has included a few sample elevations. Actually, there's one sample here to demonstrate the style of homes in the Heritage Grove development. So staff is recommending that the applicant submit revised elevations that are consistent with the homes in the Heritage Commons subdivision prior to the council hearing. The only written testimony that we have is from Doug Sayers, and he had concerns pertaining to the excess traffic through the Heritage Grove subdivision. With that said, staff recommends approval of this project with the requirement of a DA that contains the provisions in the staff report. And I stand for any questions that you may have.
Okay, thank you, and welcome to planning and zoning.
Thanks.
All right, at this time, would the applicant like to come forward? Good evening, sir. Just need your name and address for the record, and the floor is yours. Either one will work.
Thank you very much. My name is Patrick Connor. My address is 701 South Allen Street, Meridian, Idaho. I think Stacy's going to pull up the PDF presentation. Can you make it?
Madam Clerk, could you restart the clock, please? Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening, Commission. And welcome, Stacy, to staff. I know we're all happy to have you here. It's been a pleasure working with you so far since meeting you. Tonight, representing Prairie Fire subdivision. It is an infill property, 3.16 acres in this heart of Meridian. It's currently fronts on North Locust Grove, but it shares a boundary on its western side with the Heritage Grove subdivision. Tonight, we're requesting zoning of R8 and 22 single family lots and 1 common lot. As you can see, it is an infill project. There's a lot of projects that are completely built out around it. Like I mentioned, Heritage Grove is 55+ community to our west. Heritage Commons is a traditional community to the north. There's commercial uses to the north. There's a pediatric clinic and a preschool and day school to our north, and LDS Church to the south, and the fire station is along the eastern side. In the comprehensive plan map, as Stacy mentioned, it is medium density residential. And this map shows the zoning around the property. So this one shows it a little bit clearer, but there's significant R8 to the north, R15 at Heritage Grove, and then limited office to the south and to the north. With R8 is what we're proposing tonight. When we first started talking to the city about, what sort of product would fit best here, we initially came in talking about doing potentially townhomes to fit in with commercial uses and sort of this infill higher density potential property. The more we talked to the city, they encouraged us to look more at a single family use here. And the more that we talked to the communities nearby, we settled on single family lots in this particular project. You see in front of you the preliminary plat. We're showing 22 single family lots with about 11% as open space. As Stacy said, it's less than 5 acres, so no open space is required. But we wanted to show and connect to the pathway to the north and the pathways along Locust Grove. So that's why you see the green as shown. When we had our neighborhood meeting, there was a very strong turnout, and there's a lot of real concerns brought forward with the impact of this community. So we worked a lot over the past summer with the HOA board, which is present here tonight. And I will ask the HOA president to come forward and speak a little bit on this. But from the beginning, we were trying to find a win-win partnership between us and the neighboring community. Some of the issues brought forward was that we were creating sort of an island community if we were just to do a standalone HOA in a regular single family neighborhood. Their hope was that potentially we could come into their HOA and join them and be a 55+ community to help alleviate some of the impact of a single family community there. So we started talking about how that would work. Some of the concerns that were brought up were increased number of kids and traffic, and they were trying to get away from that sort of impact. So we were able to accommodate that by agreeing to do a 55+ community in this particular subdivision. There's also some concerns about incongruent architectural details between our project and their project. as part of our annexation to their HOA, we will be held to certain architectural restrictions to make sure that we're in line with their current housing product. Most of our architectural restrictions match theirs, but there's just some things here and there that we want to make sure that we can accommodate. Lastly, and this is kind of getting into the weeds of development, but our pressurized irrigation system there doesn't exist. We have a flood irrigation set up with our water right. So it's a real challenge to have on-demand pressurized irrigation. Heritage Grove does have a pressurized irrigation service. And talking with them, they can attach us onto their current system. We can dedicate our water rights to that system, and then we'll pay for any sort of upsizing or pump upgrades that would need to happen to connect to that. So that was a big thing that we were trying to work with and figure out how we're going to do it. We didn't want to have to connect to the city's domestic water line. So this was a real win for us to provide irrigation water to our future residents. Before I move on to some of the issues in the staff report that I want to talk about, I do want to invite Michael Ford. He's the president of the HOA, to talk a little bit about the conversations that we've had and some of the progress that he had in getting approval for the annexation for us into his HOA.
Do you want to have him come up separately? Because this cuts into your 15 minutes.
How much I do want to have him come up. He's
Okay,
just gonna say
that's
something.
fine. Just wanted to make sure that was clear.
Thank you.
Good evening, sir. Need your name and address for the record as well, and please speak right into the microphone. I know you're a taller gentleman, so we don't have extenders on them.
My name is Michael Rusnak, 3302 North Sheephorn in this fine city, part of the Heritage Grove subdivision. I'm representing the board as the board president of our community. A very short statement, if I may then. Upon hearing of the Prairie Fire development with the Hubble team, our board immediately began discussions. In fact, it was here we were first introduced to the program. At that time, we began discussions with the Hubble team on inclusion of that group into our development. In June, the Heritage Grove board drafted a proposal that was presented to our community and was presented for a vote to our entire community. The balloting of our community resulted in overwhelming support. In fact, greater than 90% of our community voted in favor of the terms and conditions laid out by the board for annexation of that portion of the community. With a community mandate, the board then began further discussion, working with the Hubble team and the Hubble team to finalize the annexation process. In this, it is expected that details of this will be ironed out. There are some minor terminology things as we learned of. We called it Hubble in our document, or we called it Heritage Grove in our document, and maybe labeled Prairie Fire, more legal for you folks. As Patrick pointed out, a couple of details that we needed to iron out and cast into our CC and our architectural group of the accommodation for their architectural needs that met more particularly their lots and size. But in this agreement, we've laid out to our community, again, overwhelming support from our community, and we anticipate and we expect to have this agreement finalized very shortly. Appreciate the opportunity to give the portion, our representation of the Heritage Grove community.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. There are a couple of things I do want to talk about. Conditions, two conditions in particular that were in the staff report. We do have a connection going north to the limited office property. It's a pediatric clinic and a daycare. Part of the problem is the current stub road or stub pathway comes in at kind of an awkward location in the property. And so we were forced to kind of jog a lot or kind of come into the lot, and it made that pathway not visible from the street. I spoke to the HOA president of the commercial property to the north, and they're open to shifting or allowing us to move that stub sidewalk to make it accommodate our green space there a little bit better, makes it more visible from our cul-de-sac, to alleviate the concerns that Stacy brought up in her staff report about safety. I think will also kind of make it look a little better, make it more, make a lot of sense. He did bring up the fact that he doesn't really want the connection between the two sites, given they currently have a pediatric clinic and a daycare there. In his perspective, it does make kind of a conflict point of potential safety hazard in the future. It was a condition of their approval to have that pedestrian connection to the south. I just wanted to bring that forward, that there will be some working with their HOA to ensure that we make that pathway connection. Again, this sort of connection point can be done over time and will be solidified on final plat, as long as it is a condition of approval to have that connection point there. In Stacy's recommendation, she said to eliminate that lot completely, and then add square footage to the remaining lots in the north. I think we can accomplish within that 20 feet of green space there to the pathway that runs north and keep the lot count as it is. The next item that I kind of wanted to discuss was the condition of providing house renderings that match Heritage Groves. I don't have a problem doing that, and we're updating our product anyway for this 55+ community. It's a different sort of market, different sort of buyer. We are entering a architectural agreement with the HOA board to make sure that we match our houses appropriately with architectural elements. I just think it can get a little tricky sometimes if we're having them approve certain architecture, and then you guys are also approving architecture, and we're trying to design architecture. I just personally think that we have a good relationship between us and the architectural committee and the board. And I feel like that sort of decision-making design can happen between those two parties rather than the connection between us and the city. I personally just don't think it's appropriate for extraordinary architectural restrictions to be on this property. We already have it kind of built in with the HOA. So with that, I'll conclude it. Thank you for considering this application for annexation and preliminary plat. It is an infill project that matches the adjacent land uses, providing much needed pedestrian connections to Locust Grove. And we really have worked really hard. We've made a lot of headway and a lot of concessions from our end, becoming a 55+ community. We're shrinking our buyer pool in a market where buyers are very hard to find these days, to a certain 55+ market. That was a combination that I kind of fought for, that Michael and his team really fought for, to make a win-win situation. I think this will be a great addition to Heritage Grove. And in the long run, it's going to be one seamless community, which I'm happy that we were able to get there after a very heated neighborhood meeting initially. We're following all zoning parameters and city ordinances within the R8 code. So happy to work with you all on that. With that, I stand for any questions.
Any questions for staff or the applicant?
Mr. Chair,
Commissioner Lorch, go ahead.
in regard to your landscaping of the actual home sites, so a lot of 55 communities have the subdivision takes care of that. Is that your plan, or is each individual house responsible for their front and backyard?
It is a good question. We'll follow how Heritage Grove does it. I'll have to touch with Michael how that works. We typically try to do or try to do kind of more lower upkeep with the front yard landscaping. I believe these will be traditionally maintained. But again, we'll fall in with however Heritage Grove does it. I don't know exactly how they maintain their front yards. I'm sure the folks here can chime in on that, but we'll follow the how they do it at Heritage Grove.
The only reason I ask is that, like you had said, you have flood irrigation and you have to tap into somebody else's pressurized irrigation system. If there's more control from the subdivision as opposed to individuals, you might have better luck with this, having the water equally distributed. I know in my subdivision, they say only Tuesdays and Thursdays and Saturdays, but I see a guy watering 3 times a day. So there's no control on that.
Yeah.
But if you had control, if you were in charge of the landscaping and mowing the lawns and, making sure that's all taken care of, then you can control when the water goes on.
Yeah, again, I'm sure Heritage Grove has certain watering days and they make sure that folks are trying to follow the rules. And I'm sure there's a process with talking about people overwatering. And I mean, water's a precious resource. You got to make sure it's like that. So we'll be connected to the PI system and then integrated into the system. So they'll probably have to revise their watering schedule a bit to accommodate for these 22 houses. And then folks will follow suit. And again, it will kind of just be another phase in their current activity.
A question more for staff probably is this, this will have to go through a CCC before it goes to city council. Is that correct?
No, it just gets put on it goes to city council.
Okay,
There's no CCC
okay. I was just wondering if it was,
for the home.
there was an opportunity for you to correspond with the HOA and then have that submitted as far as the elevations to make sure that they were compatible, but
So he is going to submit elevations to me. We did condition that prior to city council, so I will have those going to city council.
okay. Yeah, thank you for bringing up the fact that the property to the north, part of their CUP condition is the fact that they do have to have that path open. And that is a requirement. So,
Stacy pointed that out to me. I did not actually know. that.
okay, it's an important distinction in there to make sure that we do have walkability in there. I understand what they're saying, but at the same time, that is a condition. So that's how they operate in there. And that's one of the conditions of being able to operate in there, for sure. If there's no other questions from the applicant, we can move on to public hearing. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Okay, at this time, I'll take public testimony.
Ron Dietzler.
I just have
Oh, ma'am, we'll need your
Judy Dietzler
name
with
and name.
1318 East Prairie Fire Street. Judy Dietzler. I'm right, our house is right next to where it's going to be built. And we primarily have just some questions. One is that Hubble was proposing a single level housing development. But since then, I've heard that they could have a loft, which is a 2-story. And I'm not sure, I need clarification on that. The problem with that is because it's only 3 acres. So if you have a loft, they're going to look down in the bedrooms and the living rooms of the Heritage Grove that's surrounding it and the Heritage Commons that surrounds it. And so that'd be a problem. 1 level is no problem, but 2 level becomes a problem. My next one is, I'm sure that Hubble has worked really hard with Heritage Grove, and we appreciate that. We haven't seen the contract, the residents haven't seen it, so we're not sure exactly what it is that we're obligated to, but so we would at some point like to see that. Also, is it true that the contractors that put in the streets and everything around there can come in off of Locust Grove? Because we're an over 55, we have people with walkers, we have people with that walk slowly, and all of the traffic through there could be detrimental to their health. So we were told that the workmen could come off of Locust Grove. The residents that buy in there, they'll come into our subdivision. But I was wanting clarification on that. And then once that it's approved through planning and zoning, then it's in concrete. Nothing can be changed. Is that correct? I think that covers it all.
All right, thank you very much. So do we want to address any of those now or keep rocking and rolling?
Mr. Chair, members of the commission, certainly there have been projects or instances in the city where we have had the applicant work with ACHD on a temporary construction entrance off of an adjacent roadway until such time as the subdivision is completed and landscaping's put in. So currently the project is not conditioned that way, but let's see where the public testimony leads us and where your deliberations go. But certainly it's not really a city issue. It's more of an ACHD issue to allow that to happen.
Okay, thank you, Bill. Madam Clerk?
Kevin Emery.
Good evening. My name is Kevin Emery. Address is 3530 North Heritage View Avenue in the Heritage Grove subdivision. I really don't have any questions. I wanted to publicly voice my support of the request by Hubble and also extend my gratitude to them for their willingness to negotiate with our board. In my opinion, it's a win-win situation, and from a 55 and older community standpoint, we couldn't ask for anything better than what's being proposed. I agree that I would like to see, if possible, the current Locust Grove access be used from a construction standpoint as long as reasonably possible until it's developed to the point where they need to close that for landscaping and such. That's all I have to say.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Willie Urick.
Evening, sir. Just need your name and address, please.
My name is Willie Urig and my address is 1214 East Summer Place Street and it's in Heritage Grove. I just have a couple of comments and maybe a question. First, I really do want to say that I think the staff did a great job. When I went in and read their analysis, I thought they did a very good job of identifying issues and just looking at the whole situation. One comment I want to make is I don't think that the residents of Heritage Grove were aware that there was a plan to connect this subdivision to our water. Our water situation has been, what we have is something different than probably anybody has out there in any of your subdivisions. It's controlled centrally. So the homeowner has no control at all over the water. It comes on whenever. We don't know when it comes on. And we have no control over how much it waters. So if you want to plant something that needs a lot of water or something that doesn't need water, you have difficulty determining what's going to happen with that. And the fact that that has been a very problematic, it breaks down every summer. There hasn't been a summer gone by that system has not broken down. So that is a concern that needs to be really looked at closely if phase 5 is going to be hooked into our water system. The other issue that I want to comment on is the elevations, and that was picked up on by the staff and Judy commented on it. It really appears like it could be that Hubble could build two-story homes, full two-story homes if they wanted to. There's got to be some control over that. The elevations in Heritage Grove, there are no two-story homes in there. There are no homes with a loft. They're one-story homes. So if they're planning on building homes, a number of homes with lofts, they don't fit the character of Heritage Grove. And the last comment, after I viewed the homes that Hubble said, some of their models, I question whether 2 of the models they just showed could be built on the footprint that they have. It really looks like on the footprint that they have to build homes, the only way they're going to build homes on those is you would have a garage with an A-frame over it. And you would have to go around then on a path to get to your home because there's no width there. You don't have the width to build the garage. And I don't know how many feet they had on some of those. Okay. Anyway, I've got a concern about that. I don't think they would fit on that kind of a footprint.
Okay, thank you, sir.
I'm not sure how to pronounce his name. I'm going to give it my best shot. Masserline Sunderland. I was so sorry.
Ma'am, we'll need your name pronounced correctly and your address, please.
My name is Marceline Sunderland. I live at 3581 North Lily Turf, which is also in Heritage.
Okay, you can pull that microphone right down at you there.
All right, thank you. My number one complaint, or at least question at this point, is the elevation to it's the second story. And I just want to point out to the board that, you know, we've all in our neighborhood, we've left our single family homes with lots of room and lots of yard. And the privacy we had was in the room we had between us and our neighbors. In this neighborhood, we've had to adjust to losing a great deal of that. And the original subdivision is designed to give what little ground we have, and I do mean little, as much privacy as possible, even down to where windows are placed in your neighbor's house so that they're not intrusive into your little piece of paradise, such as it is. Second story lofts or second stories in general will rob us of what little privacy that we have left. And I just would really ask you to consider that when you're looking at this, that it really is an important issue to people of our age who have already had to change our lifestyles dramatically just because we're getting older. And we really don't want to have to give up what little privacy we are left with. And I would really appreciate you considering that in your deliberations. Thank you.
Thank you.
Doug Brown.
Evening, sir. Name and address. Floor is yours.
Doug Brown, 1409 East Legacy View Drive in Heritage Commons. Anyways, I'm here to comment on the proposed lot designs and also the recent documents provided by the city that was uploaded into the documents the other night. The recommendation of the applicant remove lot 11, block 1 along the northern property of the lots to be widened for a better transition and to provide more visibility on the pathway connection to the commercial development. Now, my property is going to be bordering lots 2 and 3, and the border is actually right in the middle of my lot, almost about a 60-40 of that. My comment is I'd still love to see lot 11 be eliminated and to use that width to widen several of those homes that are going to be bordering Heritage Commons. Because, I've lived there for 8 years. I've had open fields. It's been nice, but now with the new properties, I'm going to be losing a lot of visibility. I'm starting to, in everyone else's position, if it was happening to your guys' properties or anyone else's, they'd want to make sure that the lots are a complete transitional lot for lot as best that's possible. So I'd love to see that as a recommendation and requirement that the properties bordering Heritage Commons are matching transitional lot to lot that is as best that's possible.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate that.
Gerard Gladue.
Hello, good evening. Thank you. My name is Gerard Gladue. I live at 1461 East Legacy View Drive, and that is in the Heritage Commons subdivision. So my comment and concern is, as of what has already been mentioned, is the elevation as well, and not having 2-story, houses built. Because my property, I'm going to have I think lots 5, 6, 7, and 8. So I'm going to have 4 of those houses backed up against my fence line. So, and it looks like that Hubble's done, they've listened to a lot of us. So as far as like accommodating the 55 and older community that's already there. So really, obviously with the 2 stories, it's going to be a bit, well, for me, it's going to be a big issue. I don't want a bunch of houses looking down into my backyard. And then the traffic as well, that is going to be generated because there's only one way in, one way out of that subdivision that they're proposing. So they're either going to go out and the 55 and older, they're going to come out and go through the our Heritage Commons subdivision. So really, I mean, that's all that I have. So I appreciate your guys' time. Thank you.
Thank you.
That is all that is signed up.
Okay. This time, would anybody else like to testify? So just raise your hand and we'll call you on up here. No? Anybody online? You can hit the raise hand button. All right. Yes, sir.
My name is Michael Rusnak, 3302 North Sheephorn, representing the Heritage Grove community and the board as board president. I wanted to address a couple of the points that were raised. In our community, we do have a single home with a loft in our community already, and it is a trend. And in fact, that was discussed with Hubble. And there is we don't want to make sure we refer to it as a single family with a loft. We do have one in Heritage Grove. It looks just like the rest of them. With respect to the water system, we consulted with our landscape management company. We have that water system that's fully managed by the landscape company, and they agreed that we have plenty of margin with our water system to manage that. It is fully automated, as noted, with a computer system, and we manage each home to that value. The elevation shown by Hubble Homes, and the home we do have in our development looks out the front. For that elevation, it looks just like the rest of the homes, and you'd be hard pressed to tell that it even does have a loft. So those are my comments. Again, the landscape system is completely accomplished by us. We do all the landscaping, all the landscape maintenance as part of our dues that we charge, and that was agreed to. That was a question raised by you folks, the landscaping and the water system. The fact that the system had failed twice. We had one year where we had the developer had miscalculated and improperly installed an elbow that was repaired. That was several years ago over 4th of July. Just this year over one of the holidays, we had a pump go down, $150 to know which button to push to reset the pump. It was accomplished over a holiday weekend, which is a rule we have. It only fails Friday night of a holiday weekend. So it's my comments from representing our communities. Thank you.
Thanks, sir. Appreciate that. All right, if anybody else wants to testify, please raise your hand. Going once, going twice. Hey, commissioners, do we have any other questions, comments before we close the public hearing? We should probably have the applicant come back up and address this. True. Was getting in a hurry there. Sorry about that.
Thank you. I just want to address some of the comments brought forward. There's kind of 3 main things here. So some of the comments from Ms. Disler and Moscaline and Mr. Brown and Mr. Gladue talked about the effect of 2-story and losing privacy. I completely understand that. As Michael alluded to, all of our plans that have lofts or these bonus rooms, if there are any, the windows that do exist face the street rather than the sides and the rear, which I think is like Michael said, it's hard to even tell if there's a 2nd-story loft. A lot of times those 2nd-story windows are oftentimes just decorative on some houses. So that's the way that we build them. They're also built within the roof trusses. So there's not a whole new like 8 or 9 foot plate. So the lofts, the side walls only go up about 6 feet, and then they're up at a peak there. So that's why their lofts are bonus rooms. So the nervousness about privacy and things like that, it's completely valid concern, but the fact that it faces the front of the street rather than peering down on neighbors, I think they'll be they'll be good neighbor houses in those situations. And We want to be able to provide that second story loft and not be constrained, because it's an opportunity to have a bonus room for a craft room, or if grandkids come over, or just have some extra storage space. We want to be able to provide that. The PI issues that Mr. Urick brought forward is, as Michael alluded to as well, we deal with PI issues all the time, always in the summer, and it's always on Fridays before a holiday, like he said. And part of our agreement is that any sort of upgrades or things that need to be changed on the PI agreement, on the PI system, will be upgraded by us when the time comes. So we'll assess the needs of the current pump and the current system, and then and move forward from there. We work all over the valley and adding different PI systems together and making sure they work well. There's always going to be issues because you never really know what's in the water, debris, things like that. So it's just part of the deal. Also, I just want to touch on, I know your point before, it is a fully automated system. It's scheduled times. I think that works out really well. And it makes for a very uniform landscape community. Some of the questions about the lots lining up 1-to-1. Some of those lots along the north of the property, while they are a little bit wider on Mr. Brown's property, it's half of a house and half of a house. So it's not a true 1-to-1, but might as well be. It's hard to get anything to match up exactly perfectly with two different things. And a similar sort of situation exists with Heritage Grove and Heritage Commons, in that the Heritage Grove lots are slightly smaller than the ones Heritage Commons, and further down the street, they have a similar situation where you have multiple houses that back up to a single house. So there is a little bit of precedence there with different size lots and different communities kind of coming together in this kind of infill area. Again, the privacy thing, I clearly understand that, and hopefully not having the windows out the back will alleviate some of the concerns of privacy. And I appreciate the folks that have come in support of the project and talked about us working with the neighbors. I will say I've never worked so long and hard on a very small 22 lot community. But it's been a real pleasure working with Michael and Maureen and Frank and their team to hopefully make this a win-win community. And 10 years from now, you won't be able to tell the difference between the two. So that's our hope and that's our intent. So any other questions you all have, let me know.
Just a quick question on sounds like all the lawn maintenance and everything is included. So that's going to be part of what you do for this community as well.
Correct. It will be the same that they have. And
Okay.
I understand it's on the watering system is set on a master control. And then all the landscaping, like we're talking about bringing in different plants and things like that, they'll have to follow the same landscape requirements that already exist.
Okay. Any questions, concerns, comments? Okay. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Okay, can I get a motion to close the public hearing for file number H 2022 wait a minute. Yeah, H 2022-0053, Prairie Fire subdivision.
Mr. Chair, I move that we close public hearing on file number H 2022-0053.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to close the public hearing on file number H 2022-0053. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
No opposed, motion carries. Okay, who wants to go first?
Mr. Chair.
Go right ahead.
I do appreciate the developer to work so closely with the adjacent homeowners association to match the style. I think they've done a great job. I do agree with the staff that I think they ought to lose that one lot. I think it provides many benefits to the subdivision by maybe spreading out some of those other homes to minimize the amount of spacing between the two and provide better access and safer access to the property to the north. And I agree. I think we need to have new renderings of the new homes. I'm surely convinced that they can come up with a home style that will match the adjacent homeowners association style, but actually bring it to council for review. and to be included in that. So I don't see any issues with what our staff has recommended.
Thank you. Commissioner Lorcher?
Yeah, do we need to condition anything?
Mr. Chair,
Hmm?
Commissioner Lorcher, no, everything's already included in the agreement for them to bring new elevations and to lose the lot.
Yeah, well, I was gonna say if the only thing that we would need to provision is if we say to keep the lot and move the path. But if everybody's in agreement that that doesn't need to happen and that's the way the motion goes, then we don't need to provision that.
You have no comments?
Done.
All right, I will make a motion then.
Oh, Commissioner Stoddard, do you have anything to add?
Nope, I do not.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, before we get to a motion,
Yes,
just
Bill.
curious on the construction access, where the commission's landing on that off of Stoddard, or excuse me, off of Locust Grove.
Yeah, good
So
question.
do
Sorry
we-
about that.
I guess, do we need to commission that? I'm almost certain that construction access is going to want to come off of Locust Grove. I didn't know if that was something that I didn't feel like it was that important, but I can add that to my motion if we think that's necessary. I'd be interested in your guys' thoughts.
I would say that's fine as long as we provision it with a comma, because we don't want to get in a match with ACHD over, yes, you can, no, you can't.
Right, and that's how I'd word it, is just that they work with them to try to maintain good access for construction. Okay. All right. Thank you. Mr. Chair,
Go right ahead.
after considering all staff, applicant, and public testimony, I move to recommend approval to City Council of file number H 2022-0053 as presented in the staff report for the hearing date of November 3rd, 2022, with the following modifications: that the applicant work with ACHD to try and attain a construction entrance off of Locust Grove for during construction.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve item number H 2022-0053, the aforementioned modifications. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
None opposed, so the motion carries. Thank you all very much. Thank you all for showing up and being polite and good neighbors. I very much appreciate that.
Before I start mine, Mr. Chair, I'll let the room clear out.
Appreciate that. Ready? Okay. This time I'd like to open the public hearing for file number H 2022-0064 for Hadler Neighborhood. We will start with staff report.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. As noted, the first one for me tonight, one of two, is going to be for Hadler. The site consists of 20 acres of land currently zoned RUT in the county, located at 7200 South Locust Grove, which is approximately half-mile south of the Locust Grove and Lake Hazel intersection. It is designated as medium density residential on the future land use map, which allows residential uses at 3 to 8 dwelling units per acre of a gross density. Request before you tonight is for annexation and zoning of approximately 20.5 acres with a request for the R15 zoning district. It also includes a preliminary plat consisting of 145 building lots and 11 common lots on approximately 20 acres in the requested R15 zone. Of the 145 building lots, 52 are single family attached and 93 are detached single family. Subject 20 acres currently contains a large home and other outbuildings, with access being from a private driveway to Locust Grove that is in location of the future Via Roberto Lane that is proposed along the north boundary. Subject site is abutted by an arterial to the west, which is Locust Grove, and a future collector street along the north via Roberto Lane. Access to the site is proposed via new local street to via Roberto, in alignment with an approved access on the north side of this street within the Apex Southeast subdivision. Abutting the property to the east and south are large county parcels that share the same future land use designation of MDR. The city's newest park, Discovery Park, abuts the property at the northeast corner of the site, offering close proximity to one of the largest parks in Meridian. The applicant is proposing 145 lots on 20 acres within the R15 district, which constitutes a gross density of 7.25 units per acre, which is near the maximum of 8 for the MDR designation. The average lot size is approximately 3,600 square feet. Staff finds that the proposed project complies with all UDC dimensional standards and generally complies with the comprehensive plan. However, this project does lie just outside of the West Ada School District boundary and is instead within the CUNA School District boundary. Fortunately, there are conflicting reports regarding the capacity at the CUNA schools, specifically the high school. City staff has reached out to CUNA School District, and according to these interactions, the high school is over capacity and cannot accommodate additional children. Staff will further clarify this point prior to City Council, but notes that the city of CUNA has not stopped approving applications based on the school capacity, and the district has accommodated recent growth. The applicant is proposing 2 housing types within this project, single-family detached and single-family attached units. So the single-family attached are 2 units attached with a common wall, but they are on separate lots, so they're not a duplex. The addition of different lot sizes and housing types is a plus for the project and the general area, as it introduces 2 different housing types in this area. However, staff has had some concerns with overflow parking because of the combination of the proposed density, the building lot frontage is being relatively small, 32 to 38 feet wide, when you account for a 20-foot wide driveway, and because the applicant is proposing a 27-foot wide street section that allows parking on one side of the street versus both on a typical street section. I will note that the 27-foot wide street section, as well as 33-foot and other street sections, are still considered standard street sections by ACHD. Staff has recommended that the applicant provide a parking exhibit showing where on-street parking would be available, and they have provided this here. According to this exhibit, there appears to be space for at least 82 additional on-street cars. Staff finds that this exhibit shows that there is adequate on-street parking for the development and appreciates that it is not located in just one area of the project. Staff has discussed within the staff report adding an additional stub street. Well, I'll use this old map. Additional stub street in the location of lots 28 and 29 block 2 for the dual purpose of increasing visibility on lot 30 and adding an additional pedestrian and vehicular connection in this area. After discussing with the applicant, staff is recommending that the condition, which is 8.2A, be modified to reflect adding lot 29 to the open space area and adding an additional micro pathway for future pedestrian connectivity, removing the requirement for the vehicular connection. The applicant has revised the landscape plan to reflect this change, and staff is supportive of this revision. Staff has met with the developer of the adjacent property to the southeast, and they do plan to add open space adjacent to this area, which is why staff wanted this area to be opened up and not be tucked behind lots, as well as include an additional pedestrian connection. The proposed project is approximately 20 acres in size and requires a minimum amount of open space based on the zoning. Per the R15 zone, project requires a minimum of 15% qualified open space. Per the calculations, the minimum amount required is 3 acres. According to the submitted plans, the applicant is proposing approximately 3.5 acres of qualified open space, or 17.45%, which exceeds the minimum amount. The qualified open space consists of half of the arterial street buffer to Locust Grove, the full collector street buffer to Villa Roberto, the large central open space, as well as the smaller open space at the southeast boundary already noted. However, staff is not sure if the landscape buffers to the adjacent public streets meet the enhanced buffer requirements outlined in 11-3G3B to count towards the open space. Previously, these areas qualified towards the minimum open space automatically, but this is no longer the case with the latest open space updates. The newest updates desire for more than the minimum to be included within the buffer in order for this area to count towards the overall qualified open space. The applicant appears to comply with the 2 required points, but may not comply with the last 2, which are enhanced amenities with social interaction characteristics and enhanced context with the surroundings. The burden of proof for the proposed common open space to qualify does fall on the applicant and not on staff. Staff does recommend that the applicant provide evidence that these buffers are enhanced beyond the pathway, trees, and grasses. For example, with additional boulders, additional vegetation, decorative elements, decorative fences and walls, additional pathway connections, etc. Those examples are pulled exactly from code. If these buffers do not count, the minimum qualified open space, do not count towards the minimum qualified open space, approximately 1 acre would need to be removed from the calculation, leaving approximately 2.5 acres of qualified open space under the minimum requirement. Therefore, the applicant should provide that the proposed street buffers are qualified or apply for alternative compliance to reduce the amount of qualified open space required due to the proximity to Discovery Park, which I guess on the record at this point, staff is amenable to that option, but understands if the applicant wants to provide evidence that the existing proposed open space is fully qualifying. Project size of 20 acres also requires 4 amenity points, 1 point for every 5 acres. This is also part of the new open space and amenity code. According to the submitted plans, the narrative, the applicant is proposing the following qualifying amenities: a picnic area, playground, a water feature that's a fountain, and 2 segments of multi-use pathway equaling approximately a ½ mile in length. The proposed amenities are worth 11 amenity points exceeding UDC requirements. Further, staff does note again that Discovery Park is easily within walking distance to the northeast and will offer multiple additional recreational opportunities for the project. On the screen here are the 2 recommended revisions, one being the 8.2A regarding the lots 28 and 29, which now should be just 29. And then the second one, I forgot to add this, that's my fault, into the staff report regarding the temporary emergency access out to Locust Grove. There was no written testimony on this as of about 3 o'clock this afternoon, and so I will stand for any questions.
Thank you, Joe. Question I have is on the street that they're going to enter and exit from. Does that street go directly into the park, or is there any direct access into the park off that street?
Mr. Chair, at this time, there is not, and this would be between Brighton, the developer on the north side, and this side. This would be the first segment of this east-west collector street being constructed. So currently they cannot drive there. On the east side of the park, the city, as well as the adjacent developer, are working to finish the ½ mile of the north-south collector over there. So we're getting there, but we're not quite there yet to get there by car.
Oh, okay, I was more focused on bikes, but I just wanted to make sure that there was at least future planning in place in order to have that connectivity directly into the park.
Oh, absolutely. Future plans absolutely have that. There's be a multi-use pathway on the south side, all the way out to Eagle. And it will connect to be adjacent to the collector streets. That's going to go east-west as well.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Lorcher, go ahead.
Joe, when you discussed with the developer about eliminating lot 29, is it?
Yes, ma'am.
Even with my glasses, I don't know which one that is, but did you consider some of these tiny little driveways to possibly eliminate those instead? Can it be there, or have to be up top, or can they adjust that so we can eliminate some of these private drives?
Commissioner Lorcher, are you referring to putting a stub street in place of a common drive? Is that what you're referring to?
Well, I know this particular commission's not a huge fan of these little private driveways that come off these curves.
Mhm.
So the more opportunities we can eliminate those, the better it is for the community and being good neighbors. I don't know if that can be adjusted at all, or you discussed it at any time.
That was discussed. It was discussed to, my original recommendation to have the substreet was to replace the common drive in the southeast corner with the substreet. But it doesn't help the pedestrian connectivity or the visibility of the open space on the north part that I was referring to. And with the substreet being right here, this road, it's a private road right now, but likely at least some portion of it will be a public road in the future too. So we didn't see that there was a need to have another substreet there. Having it over here makes a little bit more sense just because it's further away from this one, as well as wherever this could go to the east. But again, between the two connections, one to the east, one to the south, we do believe there should be enough connectivity for vehicles in the future. But I do understand your point regarding the common drives.
So with these three common driveways, the one at the bottom right-hand corner,
Mhm.
are you suggesting that that could be a substreet at some time, or is it not wide enough? It would always be a private drive.
It would always be a private drive, but I'm saying that it was discussed as an option to request that the substreet, a new substreet be proposed there instead. But
Would be the next development that would have to do that then?
no, I'm saying with this development as a discussion point with the applicant, I noted that we were going to require it there. We discussed moving it up to 2829. Instead, we settled on lot 2829.
Got it.
But if we requested that or commission recommended that, that would be done with this application, at least stub it to the property line.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Anybody else? No? Right. The applicant like to come forward? Good evening.
Hello, Commission. Heath Clark, 251 East Front Street in Boise with a law firm of Clark Wardle representing the applicant. And I'll just get my stuff settled here. Okay, well, appreciated Joe's presentation. And I'm going to just jump right in and start by talking about annexation. Oops. We're going to come back here. There we go. So let's talk about that first to kind of give everybody a little context about where the city currently is located around the project and how the services fit. So we're firmly within areas that the city has already annexed and are important to the city's growth. It's just south of Lake Hazel, just east of Locust Grove. It borders Discovery Park, which you can see in the green. You also have the Brighton's Pinnacle subdivision that's just north of us. It's an area where the city is investing with Discovery Park and with the fire station that's within just a half mile. But you can see on this slide here, the fire station is there in yellow. This has been a very active corridor of development. Again, with Discovery Park, you have the Gem Prep Academy that's gone in recently. Significant residential development with Lavender Heights, as well as Pinnacle and the Keep. In addition to that, I would point out that there's a wall of city annexed property on our west. So this is certainly not extending beyond any existing resources that are available for the city. I want to talk briefly about the comprehensive plan. As we look at the approved planning for this project, the comprehensive plan shows it under the medium density residential category, which identifies densities between 3 to 8 units per acre. And we are squarely within that proposed density with our site plan, which you can see on the screen now. As Joe mentioned, 20 acres, 144 homes, overall density of 7.2 units per acre. So within what's permitted under the comprehensive plan. As Joe also mentioned, we're above the minimum open space requirements at 17.5%. And I'll talk a little bit about those factors that Joe mentioned about the qualified open space here in just a minute when I have another slide. I do want to point out the large kind of central park area. And I want to note that the zoning that we've proposed at R15 is what really makes this possible. And I'm going to talk about that here in a moment as well. But before I do, I kind of want to place this in context. The commission, several of you have been around for a little while. You've seen some of the projects that are very similar to this one. So we've done 5 of these in Meridian, 1 in Boise. They have been very successful because in our view, they cater to an underserved portion of the market. These are folks who are looking for small lots with low maintenance, high quality finishes. And as we've done these, we study them, we follow up, and we know who the typical buyer is. And the typical buyer is a young professional who is looking for a lock it and leave kind of a situation. They don't want to do yard maintenance on the weekends. They want to head to the foothills and go mountain biking. It's also empty nesters who are looking to downsize, don't want to take care of that half-acre lot any longer. And then it's also, like the divorced parent who's, no longer has the same resources, wants to keep their kid in the same school district. That's typically who we see in these projects. It's been in high demand since the applicant started doing it about 10 years ago, and it's been very successful and satisfies a need in the city. So how do we get there? And primarily it's with that R15 zone. We use that zone's setbacks and dimensional standards, and then make the project more inviting by increasing the open space and then arriving at the density that we've identified that's within what the comprehensive plan calls for. So we can deliver the small footprint, low maintenance type product, but still respect the comprehensive plan's identified density of no more than 8 units per acre. Again, we're at 7.2. And what you see on the screen is a screenshot from the comprehensive plan confirming the 3 to 8 dwelling units per acre measurement. So that R15 zone is, again, what allows this product to be available. Without it, you don't get the small footprint type that folks want and need. And particularly now with the, unfortunately, a recession looming and interest rates spiking, it's critical that we have a variety of housing types in Meridian to be able to accommodate that. And I wanted to point to a few key comprehensive plan policies that support that. We need to have a variety of housing types in Meridian. We want to avoid the concentration of any one housing type or lot size in any geographical area. We've also taken into account design in light of the area. We've provided the open space in the center of our project that's just a Frisbee throw, literally, away from Discovery Park. It'll connect, as Joe mentioned, as we understand it, to open space that's being proposed to the southeast of us. The design also includes the regional pathway system. We got about a half mile of new regional pathway. And it does connect into Discovery Park, which we think is going to be a great thing for the city. We also have our internal pathways and sidewalks. Our amenities, we exceed the project amenities requirements with 11 points. We have the 2-acre central park. This has seating, play areas and structures, shade area and landscaping. And again, those regional pathways are also very important. So let's talk about the qualified open space. We do have the 17.5%. And I don't know if you'll recall, but when we were looking at the landscape ordinance, well, when was that, a year ago or so, to make the modifications? One of the concerns that the development community had, and I mentioned on the record, was with these 4 standards for qualified open space that a lot of us just didn't know what they meant. They're kind of hard to deal with, and I think that's where this comes from. But as Joe mentioned, there's 4 things that you have to qualify for to qualify as qualified open space. You have to have enhanced landscaping. You can have multi-use pathways. And then the 2 that were a little more difficult to interpret were enhanced amenities with social interaction characteristics, which is a huge mouthful. And then you have enhanced context with the surroundings. So those are the 2 that Joe mentioned that we need to prove up. So when it comes to our landscape buffer includes the regional pathway. The staff report has already confirmed that we have landscaping that goes above and beyond what's required. So if we focus on the regional pathway and the concept of an enhanced amenities with social interaction characteristics, obviously a regional pathway qualifies for social interaction characteristics. That's where people are going to walk their dogs. They're going to see each other as they head over to Discovery Park, all of that. So we think that that's pretty clear. And then with regard to the enhanced context with the surroundings, again, regional pathway is what does it. It's the context of the surroundings is we're right next to Discovery Park. We're in a location where the regional pathway is contemplated. It satisfies that context planning requirement. So we think that 17.5% qualified open space should stand. Quickly, there's going to be two types of homes in the project, as Joe mentioned, single story attached against the project to the north and Discovery Park. And then in the pink internal to the project, we have 2-story detached. These are the elevations. And so I just want to wrap up and summarize here real quickly. So again, we're proposing a product type that's been done before in the city and that's desperately needed. We need more of it. Our density is again consistent with what's provided in the comprehensive plan. Our annexation is consistent with the growth pattern in the area. It's no issue with public services. They're all already there. The city's invested in the area with the new fire station and the park. And again, we meet the open space standards. And then Joe beat me to the punch on this. We are in agreement with the conditions of approval in the staff report. This is the same language that Joe showed on his slide before. We're also in agreement with the additional condition related to the emergency access that he showed on his slide. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Commissioner Usually.
Mr. Chair, how wide is that regional pathway? I didn't see anywhere on that screen how wide that was planning to be.
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Yearsley, it's a 10-foot pathway.
Okay. That's all I had.
I'm good.
I'll save mine for later.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much. Madam Clerk, do we have anybody signed up to testify?
We have Robbie Reno.
Good evening, sir. Just need your name and address for the record.
Robbie Reno, CUNA School District, 711 East Porter Street, CUNA, Idaho, 83634. We are the school district that staff represent in there, and I serve as an agent for our school board that has brought me here because of what has gone on in the city of CUNA, where things have been approved and we're over capacity if you go off base on things that are to be built. The conflicting information about the overcapacity of the CUNA High School and the Swan Falls High School is when we did our capital planning in 2017 to pass a bond, we built a CTE high school to take the growth off of CUNA High. Well, those combined schools have a capacity of 1,900. 1862 was the confirmed enrollment as I checked this morning, because I also serve as the principal of that high school of Swan Falls. But we were late in the submittal of a letter because I think we submitted one to Miranda Carson, who was on jury duty on yesterday. And so knowing your processes, we're learning them as being good neighbors. But we simply state now that we just cannot serve on that development. And being an annexation, we know that city commissioners and planning and zoning can reject annexations. And so we just simply say that we cannot serve this development, even though it is 145 homes with the amount of homes that are plotted on there, we just cannot serve.
Okay.
I stand for any questions.
Any questions? No. Okay, thank you very much. Appreciate that.
Mr. Chair, there is no one else signed up to speak.
No one else has signed up to speak? Anybody in chambers want to come up and testify? See no hands going up in the air. Nobody's raising their hand online. All right, with that, would the applicant like to come back up?
Mr. Chair, members of the commission, Heath Clark, 251 East Front Street. So it sounds like school is the only thing for me to talk about. So we had a member of our development team, Laren Bailey, had met with the school district about a year ago. We had another follow-up meeting with them in the recent past. There's been a number of emails back and forth to try to lock down what is actually going on in terms of the capacity for CUNA School District and what can be accepted now, what may be acceptable in the next 10 years. Joe's point about not stopping development in CUNA is, I think, a good one. But this is what I would say. We have attempted to meet with the school district, hadn't gotten to that comment that you heard tonight. What we'd heard was that there's current capacity that over the next 10 years, if there's no development, or excuse me, no bonds passed and no additional capacity created, that they would at that point be running out of capacity. What I would suggest to the commission is let us go talk to the school district, see if there's maybe an alternative solution that can be identified that here on that point, and condition us that way, and that we have that conversation before we get to council. And then that way we can report to council on that issue, because we understand that it's important. I just don't want to hold up the train at this point, given kind of the last minute element of this.
Okay, I'll give you one more thing to talk about. Can we pull up the parking graphic? So I'll just walk you through it. So as stated, and we know you're well within code for the shared driveways. My concern with this is we have parking on only one side of the street, a pretty significant density going on in here, and we have shared driveways. So this looks fine, except for probably, mornings, evenings gets a little crowded. Then you throw a Super Bowl party in here. And the next thing you know, you have no parking. So why would we go with a street width that's like this, that doesn't allow parking on both sides of the street, knowing that we have the shared access driveways?
Yeah, Mr. Chair. So the shared access driveways, that goes back to a conversation at the same time as the landscape ordinance, when the shared driveway ordinance was also updated. And we do meet code on the shared driveways. When it comes to parking, another bit of background there is that ACHD is really promoting the use of 27-foot right of way, or not right, total right of way, but the 27-foot paved surface for these roadways. There will be signage on it to confirm the parking on the one side of the street. But then to your particular question, with regard to the proverbial Super Bowl party, which, is an example that we've talked about in other applications here. You're just not, this type of product doesn't lend itself to the big bash where you're going to have 40 people there. These are 3,600 square foot lots. So you're not going to have 40 people showing up for a Super Bowl party at one person's house. You may have a couple people show up, but you're not going to have the massive parties that you're talking about here. Now, we've been doing these for 10 years. And at prior hearings, we've presented studies that we've done with drones, where we've gone out at various points of the day and looked at whether there's a parking problem. And that has not been our experience on any of these projects. So I think my response would be that we do meet code, and that 10 years of experience shows that parking is not an issue, including with the shared driveways, which in turn meet code, and with the parking on a single side of the street.
Okay, appreciate that opinion.
Well, I think, to your point, Commissioner Seal, there's a question of opinion and a question of code, right? And we do meet code.
And I understand that. It's just the combination of both of these seems to be, in my mind, is an issue. When you have a smaller street, you have parking available only on one side of that street, and you have shared driveways. So to me, that's a recipe for a lot of contention there. And it doesn't have to be a Super Bowl party. It just has to be Halloween. We just went through this. Our streets were packed, and we have 30-foot streets.
I hope they would be on Halloween.
Yeah, well, and that's what I mean. This, we're kind of creating a whole lot more contention here that needs to be,
well,
to save, a little bit of roadway. So I can't quite wrap my head around why those two things should coexist. Again, if the shared driveways weren't here, then I get it. But with the shared driveways and the limited parking, I just don't see it.
Can you help me understand the shared driveways? I mean, the shared driveways is 9 lots that are
Mhm.
affected by the shared driveways.
Sure.
So
Well, you have more than 9 lots. I mean, there's other lots that are affected by it because you're just counting the lots that are right on it, not the other ones that, the other ones that are actually using it. So there's more than 9 that are involved in that. And the fact that you have the shared driveways where nobody can park in them. So if anybody comes over to visit them, they are going to park out in the shared parking that's along the streets. So that's going to impact basically everybody. So,
Mr. Chair, I just
again, the
remind you-
two things just in my mind, I'd prefer they not coincide.
Yeah, I just remind you that there's 2 garage spaces, 2 spaces in front of the house. So you've got 4 spaces meets code. And then you have 82 additional on-street parking spaces for the entirety of the project. Experiences has shown us that that is more than adequate to address the parking, but we'll leave you to it.
Commissioner Usually, do you have something?
Well, I was just gonna laugh because at a 3,200 square foot lot, the garage is gonna be storage. They're not gonna park in that garage. I'll guarantee you it. So they have 2 parking spots in the front of their house and nothing else. And so I totally agree. I don't like the shared driveways or the number of shared driveways in this facility. So I think it's a recipe for disaster, in my opinion.
Commissioner Archer, anything?
Agreed.
Okay. So, okay, nothing else? Thank you, sir. Appreciate that.
Mr. Chair,
Go right ahead.
I move we close public hearing on H 2022-0064.
Do I have a second?
Oh, yes, second.
It's been moved and seconded to close the public hearing on file number H 2022-0064 for Hadler Neighborhood. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 None opposed. Motion carries to close the public hearing.
Mr. Chair.
Go right ahead.
So I was involved with the Mervado subdivision and I did approve that subdivision. And I still think it's a good subdivision. He had multiple different, I mean, it was a huge subdivision. It had multiple different type uses. I don't see the same comparison between Mervado and this subdivision. I think this is way, it's a, in my opinion, it's a, how do I say it? How dense can I put this? How many homes can I put on 20 acres? Is my opinion. If this was actually a little closer to other facilities, this is out in the middle of nowhere. And to have this dense of a product way out there in the middle of nowhere where there's no services, there's nothing. I just, there's not a lot of good connecting streets yet. Traffic's going to be horrible. I could go on and on, but I think this is a horrible location to put this type of product. If they had more diverse, some R8s and R15s, maybe, but 20 acres of R15 is, I can't support.
Commissioner Archer.
Sorry, I'm conflicted on a couple of things. Mr. Clark said empty nesters, young professionals, possibly divorced families were the target market, but they're living across from the largest park in probably Ada County that supports families. So a product that would be but next to the biggest park, I think would want to be one that supports, families with children that are going to play there, play baseball, soccer, whatever amenities that they have. As well as you had 20 acres to work with and you still put shared driveways in there. And thirdly, as an executive officer of the Idaho PTA, I have high concerns with the school capacity. So I don't know if we want to have them talk to the school board first and have a continuance, or deny it and they can go to city council and then kind of work it out. I'm not really sure what to do with that, but we don't know where the money from the legislature, from the surplus is going to go for the schools. It's not going to be decided until the beginning of the year. Pretty convinced it's not going to go to build buildings. This subdivision's not proposing to have a school built in their community. So, and I don't know where the nearest elementary or middle school is for CUNA. I know they have the 2 high schools and the professional high school with all the proposed communities they already have. And the worst thing that we can do for our families is provide overcrowding in our schools. So to me, as soon as that gentleman from the school board from CUNA came up, that's a huge red flag for me.
Okay. Thank you. Commissioner Stoddard, do you have anything to add?
No, I just agree actually with everything that you guys said. I agree that it's a really dense product with a lot of houses crammed into a small area. So I actually shared a lot of the same concerns.
Okay, thank you for that. Yeah, I struggle with this one. As I've shared in previous meetings, I have a son that he can't afford to live in Meridian anymore. He lives in Boise. So I agree we need product types like this that are less expensive. And he kind of fits the bill. He's the guy that, doesn't want a big yard, doesn't want a lot to maintain, and is going to go do other things, outside of work time. I do like the fact that you're putting in the regional pathways along there. You're making it walkable, bikeable, more livable. I do like that. Obviously hearing directly from the school, most of the time we hear from West Ada, they send us a form letter and say, yep, we're overcrowded, but we can't say no. So, but hearing directly from the school that, we're overcrowded and we can't take anymore, that's a little bit different for sure. And then I do have a lot of reservations about the parking. I mean, I don't feel that I feel that you should have one or the other, either reduce parking capability or shared driveways. But the 2 of them combined, I just don't feel that I can support that. So there's a lot of good things that are happening in this. I mean, your, ability to work with staff and remove the lot and everything is good. The pathways, the product. But again, I just have reservations about the parking in the schools. With that, if anybody else wants to make a motion or further comment, I'm all ears. Commissioner Yearsley, you want to take a stab at it?
I'm sure. Mr. Chair, after considering all staff applicant and public testimony, I move to recommend denial to City Council of file number H 2022-0064 as presented in the hearing date of November 3rd, 2022 for the following reasons. One, for the city of, or the CUNA School District's overcrowding. The density of the subdivision, I don't think fits the surrounding areas with lack of access and lack of public services around there, like stores, restaurants, other facilities. Parking is an issue and just overcrowding of the area.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to recommend denial of file number H 2022-0064. All in favor of the denial, please say aye.
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 Aye. No opposed. Denial is carried. We'll take a 5-minute bio break and we'll be right back. Thank you.
fancy restaurant. So I will not be in attendance.
Is your fancy restaurant here?
Oh, no, in Coeur d'Alene.
Oh, okay.
I'm thinking Beverly. Have you ever been to Beverly?
Many times. Their lunch rolls are to die for.
Yeah. So we've got dinner one night. We've got dinner one night. And night I'm Beverly.
Lunch at Hudson's for a quick burger.
Never been to Hudson. I'll have to look it up.
It's been there since 1820, so you gotta have one.
I'll write that down. But we will have a movie at lunch or sometime.
Yeah, so I'll do, Penny Tony, but if the plan that night. I'm forgetting the, red actors guild.
Where are you going?
South Carolina.
Oh, how fun.
Well, kinda. My mother-in-law opted to have cancer. So this is an opportunity for my daughters to. I think I'll be a happy teacher.
Yeah.
But the long-term outcome is not good.
Going to South Carolina.
Are you?
We only got 3 things. Yeah. 2 after.
They may have limited hours.
Are we ready, Mr. Chair?
All right, if everybody could take their seat, we're going to get started again.
Is Commissioner Stoddard back?
Commissioner started or? are you
I
online?
am, yeah.
All
I'm
right,
here.
perfect. Thank you.
Cool. Can't do this without her, so.
That's right. Okay, at this time, I'd like to open the public hearing for file number H 2022-0059 Alden Ridge subdivision. We'll begin with staff report.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. My second and final one tonight. Site consists of 21.7 acres of land zoned RUT and R1, located at the northern edge of Meridian areas of city impact, so the complete opposite end of the previous one. It is directly south of the Phyllis Canal, which essentially is our north boundary of our area of impact, and directly east of State Highway 16. It is designated as low-density residential on our future land use map. Applications before you tonight are for annexation and zoning of approximately 24.8 acres of land with a request for the R4 district and the R8 district, and a preliminary plat consisting of 65 building lots and 10 common lots on approximately 21.7 acres. The applicant has also requested alternative compliance to the required landscape buffer adjacent to State Highway 16, which has been approved because it's an administrative application. I'll get into more of that later. The subject 22 acres is located at the northern edge of the area of impact as noted. It includes 4 county parcels that contain 3 rural county homes. The largest home located at the very north, I put east corner, that is incorrect. At the very northwest corner of the property is proposed to remain, while the other 2 homes are shown to be removed upon development of the site. As noted, the subject site does abut State Highway 16 on a portion of its west boundary, and the Phyllis Canal runs along the entire north boundary, which limits any connectivity to the north or the west. To the east, 2 county residential parcels exist and will remain, with their new access being to the south through an approved development, Pollard subdivision. It'll be their new permanent access will be to the south. Their temporary access will be through this subdivision. South of the subject development is the aforementioned Pollard subdivision, which is zoned R8 and CG. South of it, this development was approved as a mixed-use development consisting of residential and flex space and commercial uses. The applicant is proposing 65 building lots on approximately 21.7 acres, which constitutes the gross density just under 3 units to the acre, 2.97, which is near the maximum allowed within the LDR, but overall very low for the city of Meridian. The applicant is proposing 2 zoning districts within the development to better transition from the existing R8 to the south. So they're doing R8 along the south boundary, just these 2 blocks of homes. And the remaining area is proposed as R4. To further help transition to the south, the applicant is also proposing a 30-foot wide buffer with linear open space and a walking path along the entire south boundary. Staff finds that the buffer and the proposed zoning is an adequate transition from the south to the north. Minimum building lot size is proposed is 5,500 square feet, which does exceed the minimum lot size for the R8 district of 4,000 square feet. Within the R4 area, the minimum building lot size is approximately 8,000 square feet. A number of the perimeter lots are much larger than the minimum lot size of 8,000 square feet within the R8 zoning or R4 zoning district. Staff finds that the proposed development complies with all UDC dimensional standards and is generally consistent with the comprehensive plan. Further, the applicant is providing excess open space, 3.1 acres versus 2.77 acres required, and providing excess amenities, a picnic area worth 2 points, pathways worth 2 points, 2 dog waste stations worth 1 point total, and a swimming pool with changing facilities worth 4 amenity points. Access to the site is a main point of discussion and analysis within this project. Main point of discussion of analysis within this project, as well as with the timing of the development, as it's integral to its success because there are no public streets currently constructed to the subject development. There is existing right-of-way from the subject site to Chinden, but no physical road within the right-of-way. This will persist until Brighton constructs Waverton east-west through their site and connects to Pollard Lane at the west boundary. According to the applicant, Alden Ridge will connect to Pollard Lane with Brighton's first phase of development for its required public street access. Because of this, ACHD has stated within their staff report that they will not approve any final plat for Alden Ridge until the required public street access is constructed. The same issue does persist for city sewer service, as the adjacent developer to the south also needs to extend sewer services and construct a lift station in their northwest corner in order to provide service to this entire area. Public Works has approved the lift station at this time, but construction of Pollard subdivision number 1 has not yet commenced. So to help people understand the exhibit here, the pink area is the right of way. Pollard Lane, as you can tell here, asphalt gray is not part of that right of way, at least not all of it. A portion of it is. Because of that, ACHD is saying that there is no public road connection. There's a gap here. Pollard subdivision number 1 is approved. It will construct West Waverton all along here. Obviously, they'll need to dedicate additional right of way here, but they will construct that. And because Pollard Lane exists here, it'll be reconstructed as a full public street. And then Alden Ridge will have their public street access. A portion of the west boundary abuts the ITD right of way for State Highway 16 and requires a 35-foot landscape buffer per the UDC for the R4 zoning district because it is an entryway corridor. The applicant is showing a common lot along the west boundary that is 20 feet in width, which does not comply with the required width of 35 feet. Due to the existing location of the home and mature trees, the required easement by the water company along the rear of those building lots, and the relative limited number of homes along the highway, the applicant has requested alternative compliance to the location of the buffer and its required width on the subject property. To be clear, the applicant is not requesting to reduce the actual buffer width, but to shift it over west of the property line so that 20 feet is on the site and 20 feet is within ITD right of way. According to the applicant, ITD has approved the inclusion of this landscaping within the right of way as they have excess area that will not be used for future road widening. Staff is supportive of this request because the actual buffer width will be 5 feet wider than the minimum. It will allow for the existing mature vegetation to remain, and it will also allow for a wider and more dense berm and landscaping to be placed along this frontage. As with the previous project, there was no written testimony. Staff has recommended approval with conditions, and I will stand for any questions.
Thank you very much. The applicant like to come forward? Good evening, sir. Need your name and address for the record, and the floor is yours.
Good evening. I think Joe's going to pull my presentation for me. Perfect. Thanks, Joe. Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Dave Jorgensen, address 14254 West Battenberg Drive, Boise. And I'm here part of the development team for Alden Ridge subdivision. Also in the group is Kyle Ensler with me, which I think I can answer all the questions you may have today. But if not, he's also part of our group here. He's also planning on being the builder for all or almost all the homes. His home building company's built quite a few here in the city of Meridian, and just great to be part of his team for this development moving forward. In my presentation, I'll just highlight a few points. I'll introduce the site. The staff's done a great job going over several items, talk over the application details, and review the staff report with you. As staff has identified, the site is located at the northeast corner of Highway 16 and Chinden, Highway 2026, approximately 22 acres in size, and it is the north border of the city's area of impact. In fact, you can see to the northwest of the site, the city of Star has now annexed property and more or less contiguous to this site, which is interesting how the two are growing together. In our annexation zoning request, we are contiguous to the city limits, as been stated by staff. The comprehensive plan future land use map calls for this site to be low density residential. And our request for a mix of zoning of R4 and R8, still less than the 3 dwelling units per acre. As staff had mentioned, we really had a lot of good discussion with surrounding adjacent neighbors, specifically to the south. I've had a lot of discussion in the history of working in the city of Meridian and recognize the importance of transition of lot sizes to future and or existing developments in the area of which we're doing this here too. And so our request is not to really change the density, but to have similar lot sizes adjacent to similar lot sizes. And that's what our plan is along the south border only, the rest of which is the R4 sized lots through the rest of the development. So our total density still stays within the range as required or suggested by the future land use map. And as I mentioned, also we're adjacent to Brighton's development that's soon to be under construction. I'll talk about that here in a minute. The staff is supportive of this annexation and zone request. The Alden Ridge subdivision, the summary for it is 65 total residential units, all single family detached homes. We developed in 2 phases. We'll start on the southern area first, south and west, and then the second phase will be in the northeast area. As I mentioned, we're considering the design for that transition of lot sizes to the south. But also importantly, this is not just jam and density, but we also think it's important to have high quality amenities and additional open space, which we are providing in this site. We're providing just over about 3.1 acres of total open space, which is 14.4% of the total site is qualified, which exceeds the required amount for this development. As noted, only 4 points is what's required in the amenity table for the city. We're actually proposing more than double of that. We have 9 total amenity points for this community, including a swimming pool, picnic area, pathway network through and without the development, the dogway stations, and also the usable park, which I think is an important concept. Sometimes we just have open space and you say it's usable, but this really truly is a spot where you can throw your Frisbee or your football or whatever in the area just around the community pool. Here's some illustrations of some homes that are planned to be built for this site. Again, all single family detached homes. These are all renderings of homes that have or soon to be built by this builder in the surrounding community. And you can see a nice variety of quality custom homes where they're modern style, there's some craftsman style, kind of a mix of a variety of homes for this community. A single story, 2-story as well. As we go through the process of going through development, we know one thing that's important is neighbor feedback. We actually had 2 on-site neighbor meetings to meet with our adjacent neighbors and talk about the community. Also had several one-on-one discussions with the neighbors in the area. A lot of comments of support and neutral. A lot of the comments included appreciate the density, the transition that we're proposing, the quality of homes, and the amenities for the community. Really only one comment or question was raised of concern. I'll call it a concern, but it's really timing. We are providing a well site to the water company and the developer, well, the commercial developer, if you will, to our southwest is Franklin Sensors. They need additional water capacity to expand their commercial facilities. And they're looking forward to this well site being provided so they can have that extra fire flow for their community. So we're really trying to work together with community to try to meet those needs. And that's of which we're doing here too. With regard to the staff report, oftentimes I come to the city and say, you know, I really like these conditions, but can you change 1 or 2? Not today. We are agreeing with all of the conditions as presented by staff. I do want to highlight, as mentioned by Joe, discuss the traffic access, the timing of Brighton's development, as well as the alternative compliance for the buffer. ACHD, just as we all know, provides the conditions of approval for traffic, and we agree to all their conditions of approval. Just on the record, no change or conditions there also. With regard to Waverton, in this illustration you see in the bottom right-hand corner of this image, this is actually from Brighton's engineer, Came Engineering. All the areas down on the bottom in the black and white is their first phase. And the red lines running east-west would be their future phase 2. And so we're collaborating closely with them as to what that'll all look like. And for the record tonight, I have an email statement from John Wardle at Brighton, if you would like it. But we've worked very closely with them. And what they've said is they are starting construction next month in December. They have, as staff has said, they already have approval of the lift station for sewer. They're in their second phase of review of construction plans with ACHD. As soon as they have that in the next few weeks, they will be under construction. So the way we see it is their construction will be long complete before we will begin construction with our development, knowing how long the process takes for not only this phase, but then also designing construction plans, construction plan review and approval, and then before we can finally get there. So we really don't see a gap in providing access to the development because all these improvements will be in place. Additionally, secondary access, if we have more than 30 lots, secondary access required. Brighton's given us permission to build that access. That's the north-south road. I'll use, I don't know if this mouse works. It's right if it doesn't. Anyway, one of the north-south roads would be where that access is, and we have their permission to build that if it's even needed. So again, closely working with them. Regarding the alternative compliance, I appreciate staff's comments and explanation of it. I'll just highlight it quickly. There is a nice home on the northwest corner of the development with large trees and some shops and some things, and we really recognize the importance of maintaining existing buffer. Likewise, the commercial to the south of us, which is not that much of a gap in between, they really don't have any landscaping or very little. And so we're really kind of tight as to what we can do. And our goal is not to provide less, but do more with what we have. And so we're going to be building a little bit wider landscape buffer. We have worked with ITD for their approval to just have it straddle a little bit of right of way and also on our property. ITD is currently in the process of widening Chinden Highway 16 and the Highway 16 all the way to Ustick to the freeway. And so based on those full build out plans, they still have additional right of way on that common border with us. And so we have that arrangement with them. And so we agree with it, appreciate staff's support and approval of that. We agree with their conditions. So in conclusion, this is really a quality development, not high density, it's a lower density development. We're working closely with the neighbors and working together. We're enabling the additional water for expansion of Franklin sensors when it's needed for them, closely collaborating with Brighton and with Franklin sensors for the utilities and access. All the required improvements will be in place prior to our start of construction as conditioned in this development. And we agree with all staff report conditions approval. With that, we request your approval tonight with the staff report conditions as stated. And stand for any questions you may have.
Any questions for the applicant? All right, thank you very much. Appreciate it.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Madam Clerk, do we have anybody signed up to testify?
We do. We have Dustin Hadfield.
Signifying you would not like to testify. So no one else? Anybody else want to, sir, come on up? Good evening. We'll need your name and address for the record, and please speak right into the microphone.
Thank you. My name is John Peterson, and my address is 6786 North Pyra Avenue in Meridian, Idaho. And I live in a neighborhood that is adjacent to the proposed a subdivision. And I actually really like the way that they've laid it out. I feel like it's very congruent with the lot sizes that are in that same area. I like how they are all single family lots, and it is being built by a builder that builds really nice homes that are congruent with the area. And I think that pretty much everyone that I know would support this development going in because of how nice it is and the nice amenities that they put in. They're putting in a pool, so they're going above and beyond as far as what they really need to do to build out a neighborhood.
Okay, thank you very much. Appreciate that. Anybody else would like to testify? All right. Applicant like to come back up? It sounds like nothing really to address there, but I'll. The only question I have for you is, as I'm looking at the layout of the common open space, where lot 9, block 3 kind of juts down into, seems like that squeezes that open space and reduces the ability to, have that flow and be a little bit more open without that being constricted in there. Would you be amenable to squeezing, making lot 9 a little bit smaller in order to open that up for?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, for the record, Dave Jorgensen, got my friend Dean over here, so he knows who's talking. We actually already looked at that. We already did move it open. So it's more than what might be, sometimes somebody squeezes like 10-foot wide and there's barely enough room for a 5-foot sidewalk and maybe a tree on one side. Maybe it's because the open space is a little bit larger proportionally, but again, these are a little bit larger lots. So we actually think it's okay as is. If you need us to maybe clip the back corner of lot 9, we'd look at that, but we really don't know that it's necessary. I've built personally miles of pathways throughout the Treasure Valley and feel very confident with what's here. But if you feel like you need us to review it, we will. But we've looked at it. We've already looked at it with staff actually more than once, and we think it'll work. But that'd be my response. But if there's other questions, we appreciate the comments tonight. We're excited about this moving forward. But I don't know if that's a direct answer to your question, but we have looked at it and we think it's more than adequate. But if you want us to relook at it, we will.
Just to follow up with that, looking at it, I'm assuming that pathway in between is a 5-foot pathway. So more than likely you're what, 20, 25 feet between properties back there?
Mr. Chairman, Commissioner, usually it's a minimum of 20 feet. It might be closer to 25 at a minimum.
Yeah, that's what I thought. It looked fairly wide, so.
And you are correct. It's a 5-foot sidewalk and that is to scale.
Well, on the map, it's only this.
You're right. It is only that.
Mr.
I
Chair,
promise the sidewalk won't be that big though.
Commissioner Lorcher, go ahead.
for the lots that are on the open space, the backyards are facing it. Are you going to have open fencing or are they private vinyl fencing?
Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Lorcher, great question. Look, there's actually a condition in here that requires us to meet the open fencing standard, which is, that's a solid partway and open partway. We'll meet the open space standard requirements for the city of Meridian.
I think it's just the drawing that's kind of thrown in, right?
Yeah, a little bit, just, to see that space in there, just squeeze a little bit where, as you're saying, throw a football, throw a Frisbee and things like that. It's a huge area, so I don't think anybody's going to really have any problems. And to be honest, if you closed it off, the other part would have its own function for sure. So, the only other question I have is that block 1, lot 22, that seems out of place, I guess, but I understand it. So, I don't know if I have a question on that. It just seems out of place in the whole thing. I understand where the residence is going to remain. But
I actually think it fits because you have the 2 estate lots on either side.
Yeah.
And I'm guaranteeing you someone will want that. That's a desired lot.
I want that. So
Maybe we'll visit afterwards, Commissioner, but I can't say that on the mic. But
I'd love that lot.
we might already know who's headed that direction, but nothing's official, of course, till.
There you go.
But we recognize these would be nice premium view lots all the way through there, and it's right up on the rim. It's pretty nice up there.
Yeah,
Thank you.
absolutely.
Appreciate that.
Mr. Chair, members of the commission, if I could just ask Dave, maybe another professional opinion on opening that area up a little bit. Just like to give a little commentary on that as well. Are you amenable to maybe just shifting lots 10, 11, and 12 all the way to the back edge of the sidewalk? And it kind of opens that up a little bit more and lose some of that open space along the street there and add it to the other side. Yeah, shift those lots to the east.
Mr. Chairman and staff, I'm not even going to look over here who was going to help make the decision. I'm going to say, actually, I would think that'd be less desirable because north facing backyards are more desirable lots and they back up to open space. So I would say to the design of this plat, I would prefer what we're presenting tonight. But thanks for asking.
Okay. Any more questions, comments? No. All right. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Again, thanks for your comments and your time.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, can I have a motion to close the public hearing for file number H 2022-0059?
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved, excuse me, it's been moved and seconded to close the public hearing for file number H 2022-0059. All in favor, please say aye. Say
Aye.
Aye.
No opposed? Public hearing is closed.
Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Beasley.
So I guess besides having a really good design and layout, timing is always a benefit to you as well. Going from a application that's really, really dense to one that's really big. Also provides, this is really nice. Sorry for that, but I like it. Anytime I can get an R4, I'm happy. I apologize, but I'm tired of seeing subdivisions that can try to pack as many homes in as they can. I understand that this is a desirable area and you want the bigger lots, and it makes sense to have to meet that criteria. And I can't say more, that I'm in very much support of this project.
Mr. Chair,
Go right ahead.
after considering all staff, applicant, and public testimony, I move to approve to City Council file number H 2022-0059 as presented in the staff report for hearing date of November 3rd, 2022, with no modifications.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve file number H 2022-0059 with no modifications. All those in favor say aye.
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 None opposed, motion carries. Thank you very much. Okay, at this time, I'd like to open the public hearing for file number H 2022-0063 for Turin Plaza, and we will begin with staff report.
Thank you, Chair, members of the commission. Next item on the agenda is Turin Plaza. Application before you is for a rezone and a short plat. The site consists of 1.62 acres of land currently zoned R4 in the city and is located at 3169 West Bell Tower Drive. This property was annexed in 2001 with the R4 zoning district. It actually was part of the Bridge Tower PUD annexation at that time. It actually had a use exception approved for it. So you see R4, but it's allowed to develop with office. As part of the recorded development agreement for this property, it did require the applicant to go through a rezone process with us before they develop a lot. So that's kind of the first step of tonight's discussion, is rezoning it from R4 to LO. And then the second piece of that is to actually further subdivide the existing lot and block that was created with the subdivision. So you can see here the applicant has provided a conceptual development plan associated with that rezone to LO. You can see they are proposing 4 additional office lots on here. All of the landscaping along 10 Mile Road and the private street along the east boundaries already been constructed, because again, this is existing lot in the subdivision already. They're just further subdividing. So here is the short plat before you. Typically council acts on the short plat, but because it is concurrent, you guys are a recommending body on this particular application. So as noted in the staff report, because they are further subdividing, we want to make sure that there's adequate parking and cross access. But between all of these office lots, we have recommended a condition of approval that the applicant record a cross access shared parking agreement for the development. I've looked at the public record, did not see any public testimony. Staff is recommending approval with the conditions in the staff report. And with that, I'll stand for any questions.
Okay, thank you, Bill. The applicant like to come forward?
Maybe online. Is the applicant online?
Right here.
I thought Jessica was going to be here. My apologies.
She's online, I think.
Okay, perfect.
So I'm here as a backup.
So she's raising her hand, looks like.
But you want to let her present?
Yep, I think so. Thank you.
Are you there, Jessica?
I am. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Perfect. All right. So my name is Jessica Petty with 1215 Design, 1897 South Satellite Way in Boise, Idaho. We're requesting the rezone of the Turin Plaza subdivision from an R4 to an LO zoning district. We feel this would benefit the community and nearby neighborhoods by being able to provide them with new services and new businesses rather than having the higher density residents built there. We feel it's very consistent with the properties to the north and surrounding it, and we think it would, fit in and complement the community really great. And we're in full agreement with all the recommendations from the staff to incorporate the property line change or shifting the building and for a larger buffer on the side there, and then to do the shared parking agreement is not a problem for us. So we're on board with everything and we appreciate it.
All right, thank you very much, Jessica. Anybody have any questions for the applicant or staff? No? All right, with that, we'll open the public hearing. If anybody has signed up to testify, Madam Clerk.
We have a David Morehouse.
I'm David Morehouse, 3536 West Ryder Cup. I'm the owner of the property and I just signed up just in case there was questions in addition to what was presented. So I don't have anything other to add unless there's questions.
Commissioners?
Nope.
Nope.
All right, thanks, sir. Appreciate it. All right, would anybody else like to testify? If so, raise your hand. No? All right, does the applicant have anything else to add before we close the public hearing?
No, I don't have anything. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Commissioners, anything from you? Nope. All right, can I get a motion to close the public hearing on file number H 2022-0063?
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to close the public hearing for file number H 2022-0063. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 All right, the ayes have it. Public hearing is closed. Would anybody like to discuss or throw a flow?
I don't know.
A
if
motion or, yeah.
Yes, it's a pretty straightforward, simple project, and I think it fits the area, so I agree with the zoning.
I would gladly take a motion.
Mr. Chair,
Commissioner Lorcher, go ahead.
after considering all staff and applicant public testimony, I move to recommend approval to, are we recommending to City Council? Okay.
Yep.
Recommend to City Council for file number H 2022-0063 as presented in the staff report for the hearing date of November 3rd, 2022 with no modification.
Second.
Second.
Been moved and seconded to approve file number H 2022-0063 with no modifications. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay, no opposing, so motion carries. Thank you very much. Okay, and last but not least, we will open the file H 2022-0056 for McDermott Village, and we will begin with the staff report.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the commission. Last item on the agenda this evening before we adjourn is the McDermott Village project. It's annexation and zoning, preliminary plat and conditional use permit. You can see here on the future land use map that the subject property is mixed use regional on the comprehensive plan. And you can see on the zoning map, the current boundary of the city limits. There is no application history per se for this particular project, as they're actually here to talk with you tonight about it. The property is located on the the southwest corner of Ustick and McDermott Road. This project is unique, if you can imagine. You probably saw in that graphic there that there's actually State Highway 16 that goes through this property and bisects it. In the staff report, I think city staff did a great job of explaining the situation of why we are supporting this application this evening, just for the fact of the uniqueness of having a state highway run through this property. I would mention to the commission that the applicant was in front of city council and asked for the specific land use designation as part of the comprehensive plan update in 2019. The requested zoning with the annexation request includes R40, which is approximately 15.85 acres of land. We have a CG piece of property zone, 7.08 acres, and across or the east side of the future State Highway 16, the applicant is proposing R15 of approximately 17.12 acres of land. Here's the conceptual development plan submitted with that application. Again, you can see how the state highway intersects the property. So it's really almost a tale of two projects in a sense with the way this works out. And so in our analysis of the comprehensive plan for this particular project, we couldn't find that it was entirely consistent with all the mixed-use regional standards. But given the circumstances, we felt it was generally consistent with the comprehensive plan. And what I mean by that is Sonia did a great job of laying the foundation that the project on the west did integrate a little bit more with the surrounding developments because of what has been approved and developed on that particular side of the road. And then as you transition to the other side of the road, this provides a buffer to the state highway and transitions on that side of the road as well. So I think overall, staff is supporting this project with the two residential or the two land use types that are proposed before you. So we have essentially commercial, some office, and then townhome development and a commercial, or excuse me, and a multifamily development. I appreciate the applicant also showing you some of the other developments in the area here on the graphic to the right. It gives you that overall comprehensive view of what's been approved along this corridor thus far. So I think it kind of tells the tale of what's actually happening. And I think this commission's aware of all the growth that's occurring in this area. You'll also note on the concept plan here that access to the western portion of the development is coming off of Ustick Road here. This will be a public street and constructed with a subdivision, and then also ties into Aviator Springs development to the north. So this is the primary spine road adjacent to an arterial or the state highway, and it will provide that necessary secondary access that we're looking for in this particular area. The applicant is proposing, again, a preliminary plat consisting of 85 buildable lots. So one will be a multifamily lot, 3 commercial lots, and then 81 townhome lots. Again, you can see the west half of this screen is the west side of State Highway 16, and then the townhome portion is the east side, which has 81 townhome lots. You can also see that the applicant is proposing to phase the project. So phase 1 will commence with the multifamily, and I'm sure the road that comes into the development to serve it. Phase 2 is across the other side of the roadway, which is the townhome development, and then phase 3 will be the commercial development. I'd also note to the commission that at this current time, there are no plans for any commercial development, meaning there's no end user to locate on this side. It's really speculative. We worked with the applicant through numerous meetings to try to get something that was consistent with the comprehensive plan. They felt this was and again, given the look at this and seeing that there's a highway going through it, it's just really challenging to get a regional draw on something that's going to be bisected by the state highway. So really, if you look at this project, approximately 26 acres of this site is on the east side, or excuse me, the west side of the roadway, and the remainder falls across the east side of the road. So again, as I mentioned to you, it's a little disjointed just because of the highway. So we tried to lay the foundation for you as best we could, but again, staff is supporting this project. So both projects, I call them both projects, but this project has to comply with open space requirements. This is their proposed landscape plan. The highlighted areas show the areas that can count towards the required open space. So again, the multifamily portion and commercial portion are highlighted in red here on the west. And then on the east side, you see the additional open space that's proposed. In the staff report, staff did make the finding that the project does comply with the open space standards, not only for multifamily standards, but also the single family standards, which is happening or occurring on the east side of the roadway. And then as part of the mixed use regional standards, the applicant's required to provide some open space as part of that project, that portion of the development as well. And you can see here, there is a central plaza that's built or proposed in between two of those commercial structures. So staff has made that a recommended DA provision as well for that to occur with the development of the commercial project with phase 3. Staff also noted that the amenities proposed for both the multifamily and the single family met city code. There was a little back and forth with the applicant as far as the amenities proposed for the multifamily project. There were some misunderstandings about the commercial kitchen component of the conditional use permit. I had a chance to work with the applicant, or at least talk over that condition with them today. So again, the commission can either strike the word commercial and just leave outdoor kitchen as part of an amenity, or just strike that amenity altogether, because based on the amenity package that they're proposing for the multifamily, they are in excess of UDC standards. But as you know, once you get over a certain unit count for multifamily developments, it's up to your purview to determine whether or not the applicant is proposing the right number of amenities for the size of the development. In this particular case, the conditional use permit is for 250 units. Staff also asked for further clarification on the amenities for the single family portion or the townhome portion. And that's what this graphic on the right represents. So the applicant does meet or exceed the amenity points required by the UDC. I'll skip over this slide. I think you're aware there's multiple structures, 250 units. Again, the site plan complies with the parking ratios, and they meet the open space and amenity requirements per code. And then as far as conceptual building elevations, here's what the applicant is proposing for not only the townhomes, but also the multifamily. We believe that it does kind of blend in with the surrounding developments. Any further refinement would occur with administrative design review with a certificate of zoning compliance application and design review application, I should say. No conceptual elevations were submitted for the commercial portion. So again, that's fine. They don't have an end user. They don't know what it's actually going to look like yet. They want to keep that portion of the site somewhat flexible until they have somebody that can locate there. So looking at the record, it looks like we did have somebody that provided testimony. They didn't give a name, so we labeled it Meridian residents. They're concerned with overcrowding of schools and just the continuing growth happening in Meridian. And then Todd Tucker, the applicant's representative, did provide a response to the staff report, and he's requested that condition A10K be removed, which is reference to that commercial kitchen, as I mentioned. And then staff is recommending a revision to DA provision F. And that's on your hearing outline. So basically, we just want to add the name of a street and just clarify in the development agreement that the multi-use pathway required along that roadway can occur on the west side and not directly on the east side adjacent to the state highway. I'd also, after looking at the staff report as well, I'd also note that that same condition is in condition of approval 3B as well. So I'll also make sure that that language gets added to that condition as well as we transition to city council. With that, again, staff is recommending approval, and I'll stand for any questions you may have.
Right. Thank you, Bill. This time, would the applicant like to come forward? Good evening, gentlemen. We need one of your names and address for the record. And
Sure thing. My name's Travis Hunter with Boise Hunter Homes, 923 South Bridgeway Place, Eagle, Idaho. So we're the principal partner in the McDermott Village subdivision here before you guys tonight, and we're grateful for another opportunity for a unique project in the city of Meridian. Having the right team is really the key piece to any successful development project, and I couldn't be more excited for the team we've put together for this project as it's so dynamic. So as this project blends multifamily, commercial, and for sale housing, we've partnered with the Pacific companies, which are some of the country's best multifamily developers. And if you're not familiar with their work, one of their projects is actually right across the street from here, the Old Town Lofts development. Working on the architecture side, we've partnered in the landscape architecture side, we've partnered with GGLO and Pivot North, and both of them have produced high quality projects, both locally and regionally. The McDermott Village project offers the city of Meridian a timely and low risk development that utilizes the Meridian comp plan to develop a critical 40-acre piece that is adjacent to the existing Owyhee High School and the future Highway 16 extension, which is coming fast. I will now turn over the details of the application to Josh Everts, the development manager with the Pacific Companies.
Yeah, good evening, commissioners. Josh Everts, 303 East State Avenue, Old Town Meridian, 83642. Hey, I appreciate you guys having us here tonight. This one is a labor of love. This is not easy to do. So this project I won't burden you with the order of events. We're going to talk about the property. We're going to talk about what the ask is, and then we'll get into some of the details and challenges of this guy. The property was 40 acres that was bought back in 2006 by the Hunter family. A family that develops single-family homes. This property was in the path of growth and saw an opportunity to develop that in the future. In 2017, ITD redefined the final 5 miles of Highway 16, and we ended up with a property that had some unique characteristics associated with it. So what we're looking at is we felt that the reason that we went to City Council during that comp plan is that we really felt that Hawaii High School would become that regional draw, and we felt like we could wrap a project on this property, even with the highway dividing it, and have a mixed-use regional draw element product that we could put in place for the city of Meridian in this area. So what we're asking for tonight is obviously the annexation of the property. It is designated mixed-use regional, which is a mix of employment, retail, residential dwellings, 6 to 40 units per acre. We're proposing 12.5 units per. We definitely wanted to keep with kind of an open design that can be kind of a transitional element from some of these open spaces into some of its higher density partners that exist around it. We need a rezoning request. We have the R40, the R15, and the commercial that's down below, and we'll go into some details on that. And then obviously the preliminary plat for each of those 250 dwellings, multifamily, the Pacific companies will be building 81 townhomes that'll be the responsibility of Boise Hunter Homes, and then the commercial that we're going to do cooperatively. We think that there's some really strategic things that we can go after that really does make this, even though it feels like separate projects, that can really make this a mixed-use project that can be delivered to the region. We do need a conditional use permit per the Unified Development Code for the multifamily, so that's one little add-on that we need there. So let's talk about the challenge. So Highway 16, we make the decision, or Idaho Transportation makes the department makes the decision to initiate this extension going from State Highway 44 all the way to Highway 84, or Interstate 84. Phase 1's completed in 2014. The design for this last 5 miles is finished in 2020, funded in 21, and is in the process of working through different sections of that right now, even though they haven't gotten to our piece of property in particular. So our solution was, number one, we kind of had to conduct an assessment. We really had to sit down as a team. I think that the Hunter family and their wisdom started bringing some bright people together, Pivot North, GGLO, Pacific companies, to go, okay, what does this look like? What can we offer? What's something that we can do here? And approach the site comprehensively, not look at this as a divided piece of property, but look at it as a project that we can deliver. Building that team, and then we've actually leaned in to try to be a good partner, knowing at the end of the day, this road is going through. So on our own volition and dollars, we did put in a north sewer main and south sewer main to support development that would happen on either side of this and get that done. And then we also granted a water line easement to the city of the Meridian along the entire southern border of the project. And we just felt like it was important for us to lean into this and be a good partner with the city. So McDermott Village, what is it? It's a mixed-use regional program development. We're leveraging Hawaii High School as our primary draw here. I did want to make note of the one comment that came in earlier about the impact to West Ada. I know we talked about it with CUNA earlier. A letter was actually submitted from West Ada to planners on this project. They're estimating that we're going to add about 73 students, and they didn't express any concerns. Their only concerns were that we were giving access from the development to Hawaii High School, which we've done in 3 areas. Just an additional data point. Multifamily lifestyle community, we really leaned into amenities here and what we would be able to offer on this site, especially in such close proximity to the high school. Single family townhomes, this was, as staff reported, the more challenging of the two sides to develop a product. There are some unique things. You'll notice that there's a a cul-de-sac at the end of McDermott. So that doesn't exist today, but as soon as the highway goes in, that does get cul-de-sac at the end of that. So there are just some unique access challenges. But I think we came up with a great concept to do these single-family townhomes, which we think are going to be at a price point that has a great amount of affordability associated with it, which we think fits with this whole transitional model of going from the regional draw, the multifamily, some very affordable townhomes, and then leading into the rest of the region as we've laid it out. Retail and office amenities, and then lots of integrated green space. Just felt that that was very, very important. So the comp plan, this is what guided a lot of our development. This is the mixed use regional sample, laying out the single family residences, the retail office, hospitality, and integrated plazas. So our take on this, as we look at kind of the data overlay and the colors here, is on the east side of the project, we have the 81 townhomes. You can see the green space of the pickleball courts in the north, as well as the big open green space that's in the middle of the project. We have the 250 apartments that are in the yellow. You'll see all the green space that's in the middle of that, the amenity space. For the entire project, we're at 32%, which includes plazas, pickleball courts, walking paths, specifically walking paths that are also connected to Hawaii High School. In the front, in the commercial, we have 15,000 square feet of office retail space that we think that we don't have specifics. We do have some things that we're wanting to target in that space that we think fit with being off of a access point off the interstate. And then we just have amenities specific to the multifamily 9,000 square foot clubhouse that does have a full indoor kitchen, big accordion doors that open up into the public space, outdoor barbecue, pool, lots of fun stuff to do there on site. So why did that not advance? Oh, elevations. So this gives some ideas to what we're looking at. So this is looking north at the multifamily commercial. You notice we've kind of reflected, we do think one of the natural fits for this, given the fact that it's right off of the state highway or Highway 16, is a fuel convenience store option. We've done a lot of time looking at Rocky Mountain High School and looking at a lot of the successful businesses, the grab and go food. We also think in order to drive more jobs, we're looking and just amenities that would be specific to the multifamily. We're looking at dentists, optometrists, things of that nature, that would be things of sports doctors, things that we could see students that are at the high school that are going to be in walking distance, that they'd be able to take advantage of. Looking west at the multifamily, again, you can see some of the buffer and landscaping that exists, how we've set those buildings back to make sure that those buffers exist, and then the high school in the background. If we look at this public plaza, this is one of the big things that we focused on. I think GGLO and Pivot North did a great job of really creating these kind of environments that are walkable, that are going to be friendly to kind of the region. And excuse me, finally, the townhome elevations. Again, wanting to fit, I think like staff reported, wanting to fit in with some of the designs and things that were happening in the region and not be developing something that was outside the norm. And we know that there were challenges with this, so we wanted to make sure we were being very careful with some of those design things to fit in. So some staff comments that we wanted to address. So there was staff was looking to require a 10-foot wide multi-use pathway within the Highway 16 buffer. So all this pink area, this is the pathways on the property. I'll just point out the blue circles on the west side of the property. Those directly go into Hawaii High School. At some pretty neat points right near baseball fields and stuff that's going on. The path to the north of the multifamily ties right into the subdivision, the single family community above us. So we are providing that that 10-foot wide path on the multifamily side of the project. Where we run into issues is we're providing that 10-foot path on the east side of the townhomes. There just wasn't enough room with the buffers and things that we had to provide to squeeze that 10-foot pathway on the east side of the property. So we moved that to the west side on the townhome side of the project. Requiring a 25-foot landscape buffer between the commercial lots and the residential lots to the west is the Flowers property. Flowers properties, if you look at this drawing, the easement that we were given by ACHD or access that we were given by ACHD, that parking or that driveway that goes in out, we're only 24 feet off the property line to get to the middle of that. So it really is impossible for us to do a 25-foot. And ultimately, because that Flowers property is designated mixed-use commercial on the future land use map, it wouldn't be a requirement to have a 25-foot element there. So it'd be asking for a variance to not have to do that. We just would lose the southern access to this property. We can't move that driveway or that access point any further east. Requiring a 35-foot wide buffer along Highway 16 and McDermott Road. Code does allow for a 10% variance option. So on, again, the multifamily side, we're right there. We're currently at 33 feet. So no issues at all there. On the other side of the project, where it squeezes down on the far north, we get down to a 26-foot buffer between the westernmost lot on the north of that project. So even with that 10% variance, where it's not sufficient to meet that 30-foot wide buffer. So we are looking for some consideration there. If you look at the on-ramp, the 50-foot buffer, there's a retaining wall on the east side of the buffer, and the 26 feet that we're providing, we feel that at 76 feet, that's sufficient. And we're really trying not to lose lots in order to make sure that these still maintain, affordability. It really is going to cost us about the same amount, whether we have that one extra lot or more. And so it really does impact the cost of these properties ultimately to a buyer later on. Requiring the 30-foot wide buffer along the McDermott Road. This really isn't, this won't be a thing. So this, as soon as this gets terminated as a cul-de-sac, it'll no longer be an entryway corridor. So it won't have a requirement to have that 30-foot wide, 35-foot wide buffer on that side. So we're asking to not have to put that in, since that is going to get ended. And then finally, requiring all townhomes to be a minimum 2,000 square feet. So one of the things that the code does allow for is a variance can be given to relieve an undue hardship because of the characteristics of the site, as long as we're not detrimental to the public health, safety, and welfare. Just given the nature of this Highway 16, we also have in the green spaces that's in the middle, that's the 100-foot wide Sky Pilot drain easement that we can't touch, that we have to maintain. We really did try to program as much as we could in this piece of property so that we could get to a product, these townhomes that were the right price point and the right product in this area. We're not far off of this, but if we do have to comply and get to that 2,000 square feet, we're going to lose about 10% of the available units. So we're estimating 9 units, which is negating a portion of that whole affordable spirit of the development. So with that, I am open to any questions, and thank you for your consideration, and staff.
Commissioners, any questions? No? All right, thank you very much.
Mr. Chairman, can I take care of some housekeeping real quick?
Absolutely.
And if I missed this, I apologize, but Commissioner Lorcher and I had a discussion a little earlier today that she may have a conflict of interest relative to this project. If that's the case, I'm not sure if you made your decision about that, but if that's so, I was just reconfirming, you do need to make an announcement on the record, and we've already talked about you could not participate in deliberations or voting, but if you have decided that you're going to recuse, I guess I would recommend now that you make that comment and explain why, and then refrain from participation, participating in deliberations or voting on the item.
So based on council today, because I am a neighbor of this particular project, my farm is just adjacent to it to the east. I am going to recuse myself this evening.
Okay. Thank you. Appreciate the reminder on that. All right, Madam Clerk, do we have anybody signed up to testify?
Ron Hopper.
Evening, sir. Need your full name and address for the record, please.
Name's Ron Hopper. My address is 3510 North McDermott Road. I live right across from this proposed project. I only have a couple of concerns. It looks like a good project. But all this traffic is going to dump on McDermott Road and Ustick. Those roads are 2-lane roads. They weren't designed for an additional 500 cars a day. So is the developer going to maintain the road? Is he going to put in a turn lane? Is he going to build up the aprons? This is what my concern is. And also the traffic, the kids. I've got 2 kids, grandkids that go to Hawaii High School. And so now you're going to be dumping all these cars on Ustick. You're creating an accident, that's what you're creating. So just think about it. If some kid gets hit by a car, remember that, okay? I mean, it's a nice project, but you need to have more access or better control. That's my comments. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, sir. Appreciate that. Anybody else
Rod-
signed up?
Rod Green?
Evening, sir. Name and address for the.
Good evening, yeah. Excuse me. My name is Rod Green. My wife and I, my wife Bonnie over there, we live at 3560 North McDermott Road. We're right next and behind Ron, who just spoke, and right across from the east part of this development. We have the same concern about the traffic. If you do a quick calculation, based on a little over 2 cars per townhouse and maybe 3 trips per day, you're going to have almost a trip every minute during the 9 hours of your working day. Now, the problem with that is traffic isn't evenly distributed throughout the day, as you well know. You have a lot of congestion in the mornings, a lot of congestion during the evenings, and at other peak times of the day. So it's going to be really hard to get in and out of our properties, is what I'm saying. Our driveway for our property lines up almost directly across from the northern access to, there's 2 access points. Let me try to describe it a little better, to this eastern portion of this development for McDermott Village. Okay. The northern entrance to that property lines up almost directly across from our driveway. We think that's going to be a problem. Why? Because I think most of the traffic in and out of this eastern portion of this development is probably going to go through that northern access point. There's not much point for all of those people to turn out of their townhomes and go south and get on McDermott and come back up north to get to the drive around point to get to Ustick or on north to McMillan. It just looks like it's going to be a problem situation right there and right across from our driveway. So we have a lot of concern about that. Otherwise, we have, I think, a general concern for the total amount of build out that you've got going in this part of the of your city. The Aviator Springs, I think it's Aviator Springs to the north, looks like there's a lot of apartments there and it doesn't look good. I don't know if you've driven out that way and looked at it. It just looks like a big bunch of stacked multi-story apartments. Is that really what we want? Is that a good transition to the rural environment that we've had out there? We moved there in 2004, you know, and loved the peace and quiet. That's why we bought there. We're not going to have that anymore. We've got Highway 16. We've got all this other development going on. Have we been compensated in any way for what we've lost? No. Will we even have access to the utilities that you're bringing in to this development, such as natural gas, high-speed internet, water, if we should need it at some point, or sewer? I doubt it. Just because of our location, we probably won't have that. So those are our concerns. Thank you for your time, Mr. Chairman, council members. Thank you. That's it.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Bonnie Green?
All right, anybody else would like to testify? Sir, come on up.
My name is Paul Elam. I live at 5127 North CC Road, Meridian. I've been here before in relation to the Bridge Tower complex. And as much as I hated that one, this is much worse. I'd say this is garbage, complete garbage. 12 three-story buildings. I don't know if people are really taking that in. Our daughter goes to Owyhee High School, and right now it's a freak show in the mornings. And I'm sad to hear that Commissioner Larcher is going to not vote on this, because I actually think she would give the most valuable opinion, because she is nearby and could say exactly what that area is like. In the morning this week, they've been putting in a gas line on McMillan, which is right on the opposite side. You have two main streets going in toward McDermott. One is Ustick and one is McMillan. As you continue on down to the Storm Avenue, I think it's called, then that road goes all the way between both of them on Owyhee High School. This is adjacent to it. It's literally, when you go there for games, it will block out the sky. I mean, it's tragic. I wish I had never bought here to see this kind of thing go in. And the only reason they're going to get away with this in some ways is because nobody knows. These fine people over here are nearby and they see it, but the 500 yard, I think it's 500 yards or something like that, where they send out the cards. Well, there are a lot of farms in there, and then they should send out a card to everybody who has a student going to that school, because frankly, the comprehensive report is completely out of date. And the planning team seems to approve almost everything that goes through, as far as I can see. It was done in 2019, and in 2019, there was a completely different Meridian. It's nothing like what we live in today, and it's tragic in what has happened. All along McMillan, from where we live near Walmart, all the way down to Owyhee, there's buildings going in on all sides, which are homes. Granted, they're homes, I can't stop that. But also there's a new school going in there, which means that all the traffic will be going back and forth. And if you can believe they estimated 71 students, I won't even describe what that really is. There's no way. Marcy Horner, who does West Ada's form letter that sends out for every application, says the same thing, which is basically that these three schools that these students would funnel into, one of them is in our community in Bridge Tower, is already at capacity. It's max. The parents are fuming every day because they can't even hire teachers to go in that school. So what I would ask is that, closing, I'm sure my time is running out soon, is that Kurt read again what they did at the Bridge Tower conditional use permit time, was all the reasons why you can deny this claim. And I'll give some examples of them real quick. Some of the examples on how you can deny this claim are in the Code of Ordinances findings, which include that the design, construction, operation, and maintenance will be compatible with other uses in the general neighborhood. There's no support services anywhere near this area. They will have to drive either to Napa or into Meridian on either Ustick or on McMillan to get to everything they want to do. Very few people will jump right on 16. It's the existing or intended character of the general vicinity that such use will not adversely change the essential character of the same area. This project will adversely change the whole area. There's nothing even remotely like it anywhere near it, except if you go up 16 going towards State Road, you'll see there's three-story apartment buildings that also block out the sky. Is that the kind of experience that we want for our students at Owyhee High School? Is they look up and they can't even see the mountains that their high school was built to view? It's unbelievable to me. Going on, some other reasons to deny would be that the proposed land, if it complies with the conditions of the approval imposed, will not adversely affect the other property in the vicinity. I think we all know that if you build a bunch of apartments right next to the school, it will directly adversely impact those other properties in that vicinity. Number 5, that the proposed use will be served adequately by essential public facilities and services such as highways, streets, schools, parks, police, fire protection, drainage structures, refuse disposal, water and sewer. I think we can all agree that the information sent over by those different agencies is not adequate and won't fundamentally explain the true nature of that area. No, I'm going over my time. Finally, I will just add that a nearby neighbor applied to be on this commission in one of the open spots. And I'd like to go on the record in saying that nobody, neither Andrew Seal nor the mayor, followed up with them it's been over a month now. And it seems like having more opinions on the commission would be a better way to really project what we want to build in Meridian for our families. Thank you very much for your time.
Great, thank you. Anybody else like to testify? No? All right, would the applicant like to come back up?
Mr. Chairman, members of the commission, Todd Tucker, Boise Hunter Homes, 923 South Bridgeway Place, Eagle, Idaho. Just wanted to address a few of the comments that were made. There's always concerns about traffic with any development that comes in. One of the unique situations that we have here, and I understand the concerns from the residents on the east side as far as traffic on McDermott. We have to remember McDermott will be cul-de-saced. So the amount of traffic that you see now that travels on McDermott is going to be dramatically reduced when that road is cul-de-saced. There just won't be that much traffic traveling up and down McDermott because you can't get to Ustick. You have to go to the east a mile or a half a mile, then back down a mile or half a mile. I can't remember the distance to Ustick Road. So I think that the overall traffic is going to be reduced on McDermott Road just because that road is going to be cul-de-sac. As far as the concern of Mr. Green, the alignment of the road, that the northern access road in the townhomes aligning with his driveway, ACHD actually has a policy. They like things to align. It actually makes for safer intersections when roads and driveways align with each other. So if you look at ACHD's policy manual, they actually like things to align or be offset by certain distances because it makes safer intersections. And so that street aligning with their driveway is actually what ACHD would prefer. Aviator Springs does not have any multifamily. There are no apartments in Aviator Springs. I believe it's all single family homes that this commission and council just recently approved. As far as the destruction of the rural environment that is there now, the properties to the east side of McDermott Road are in the county, but they are within Meridian's area of impact and comprehensive plan and identified as mixed use interchange, which would have much higher uses than what is there now. Our development, we really, as Josh mentioned earlier, we tried to kind of step down or transition that density from being next to the high school with the higher density stuff and the commercial on the west side of Highway 16, and then transitioning down to some single family homes on the east side to kind of transition to that lower density that exists right now on the other side of McDermott Road. As far as the last gentleman that testified, I have a unique situation. My daughter also actually happens to go to Owyhee High School. And when I was talking with her the other day, I was actually driving her to practice at school. And she said, I thought of something the other day because we were talking about different businesses. This was out of the blue. I didn't even prompt anything. She said, I've determined that if a business wants to be really successful, they need to be next to a high school. And I thought, well, interesting you say that because next week I have a project going forward. So her and all of her friends are actually very excited about this project. Right now, she told me that most of the kids are late to class coming back from lunch because they actually drive all the way to Walmart. They go to Walmart, they go to the Marco's Pizza that's there, the Panda Express, the gas station that's over there. So they're leaving Owyhee High School, driving 3 miles to go to eat something at lunchtime because it's not cool to eat lunch at school. You got to leave. And so we think this is going to be a very positive aspect for the high school. The students that I interact with are actually very excited about this. Insinuating that the comp plan is out of date. It's 3 years old. That is very new as far as comprehensive plans go. So I would say that it is not out of date. Talking about how it's incongruous with the area. I think our development is very fits in very well with the existing development. and with what has been planned by the city of Meridian with the Fields master planned area that's located directly, not directly, but located to the west of this, west of Owyhee High School. The city went through an extensive master planning process to plan that area. This area of town is ripe for development. It is going to be more dense in certain areas. I think Meridian is on the right track with the way they have their comprehensive plan laid out and identified what the uses should be. Public facilities, we're bringing water, we're bringing sewer, we're handling drainage. The school district, there is a directly north of Owyhee High School, there is a elementary school that's going to be located there. So there will be, it's not there now, but it's 5 or 7 acres, maybe 10 acres directly north of Owyhee High School, that big open field. There will be an elementary school there. That's what it's planned for. So more school will be in this area to alleviate some of that pressure on the schools that are around. But again, we have a letter from West Davis. They didn't really express any concerns about the amount of students that will be produced. So I think hopefully that answers a lot of the questions or the concerns that were brought up by the residents. We had a neighborhood meeting at Owyhee High School. I thought it went very well. A lot of interaction with the residents, the folks that did show up. We're, again, just to reiterate, we're very proud of this project. We think it fits in well. We've really tried to do the best that we can with the hand that we've been dealt with a state highway bisecting your property right through the middle at an awkward angle. We've got a large drain that runs through the middle of it with 100-foot wide easement. And we've got another canal that runs at an angle across the top, the northern portion of the property. So again, this is a project we're really proud of. We think it fits in very well with the community. We think it fits in very well with the comprehensive plan. We were excited to get a favorable staff report from your staff. We've been working with them for 2 years on this project, a lot of back and forth, and we landed on something that I think we're happy with, and we're happy that the staff is happy with it. So with that, I think that we can answer any other questions that you might have, but we're happy with the project the way it is.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Yearsley.
Mr. Chair. So do you know when they plan to start construction of that interchange, that area of U-Stick for the highway?
Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Yearsley, the construction of Highway 16 has actually already begun. So they're actually constructing it in 2 different kind of segments, I guess. They're starting from the north and working south, and they're starting from the south and working north. And both of those projects have already started, and they're meeting somewhere near our property. So as far as when actually the interchange or the portion of Highway 16 that's constructed through our property, I'm not sure when that will be, but I'm going to say it's within the next year because they literally have already started that work right now. It started maybe 2 months ago.
When do you have to go through all your entitlement process and stuff like this and then get your design plans? Just trying to figure out timelines of when U-Stick will be improved, because I imagine they'll have to improve portions of U-Stick with the interchange. How that fits in with your project, are you year out, 2 years? What's your plan for your phase 1?
Yeah, I'll take this one. Yeah, because this is the Pacific Company side. Yeah, so on the multifamily side, yeah, that is phase 1, and we would be continuing with, if you guys recommend it, if City Council approves it, we would be pressing on with all of our plans and submissions to the City of Meridian and wanting to break ground as soon as possible. There's not any reason to delay any of this. We have the capacity and resources, and the need is there. To provide this, especially with escalating interest rates and stuff like that. We've just seen an evaporation of people, at that starter level, right? Teachers that are working at the school, firefighters, that they don't have resources and they need housing options. So we'd be starting very quickly. But I think Highway 16 will beat us in terms of our completion. So I think those improvements will be done before people would be moving in. And we've actually had a lot of conversations about the commercial, even though we have that as like a phase 3, just based on some of the feedback we've been getting. I won't be surprised if that ends up being a phase 2 because I just think that there's an appetite and there's a gap right now that exists with Hawaii High School as that big regional draw. It's a great option to have there.
Well, I agree because, I have to laugh that you talked about what's successful business around high schools at Rocky Mountain. It's all the fast food restaurants that are right there. So I could see that being a good fast food location. I guess follow on. So with McDermott going to a cul-de-sac there, is there an alternate route that's being proposed to U-Stick? And is that part of ACHD's construction? I wasn't quite sure. It looked like in your plans that you guys had, looked like they kind of showed a kind of a bypass road back around that.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Yearsley, we don't have an exhibit that actually shows the full breadth of it. But if you look at the screen now, on the northern portion of the screen, that gray, that is actually the road that will head to the east. It goes approximately a mile and then it turns south and intersects with U-Stick Road. And then it also heads another mile south from there and then a mile to the west to reconnect with McDermott south of U-Stick. So McDermott is going to be cul-de-sac on the north side and on the south side of U-Stick Road. And you have to do a bypass around to get it. So that is ACHD. I believe they've acquired that right of way already. If you look at current maps, that is already shown, that route is already shown as being under the ownership of ACHD. So I believe they've acquired that circuitous route already. But yeah, there will be a connection to U-Stick. It's just going to be approximately a mile, maybe it's a half a mile to the east.
Okay. So with that, is the state highway going to, when U-Stick goes through with the state highway through there, will they cul-de-sac that at the same time, or is that ACHD cul-de-sac?
Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Yearsley, that's going to be more than likely a combo effort. ITD and ACHD are working very close together on this because McDermott Road is a ACHD road, not a state highway. My guess is ACHD is going to be the one doing the work, but maybe not. I'm not sure how that works, but that will be part of that interchange that goes in when the interchange at U-Stick Road is under construction. That's when McDermott will be cul-de-sac. So
right. And
my guess
so
is it's pretty
the reason why I'm asking all this is we actually had one of the commissioners from ACHD come in and talk about State Highway 16 and all the things that Ada County Highway District was supposed to do, but was unfunded. And so my concern is all these proposed improvements on ACHD right away and stuff, are they unfunded or are they being funded by the state? And maybe you don't know. I was just kind of curious, how that's all playing out.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Yearsley, I did see that, or I've read the report, the news article about it as well, talking about how some of that funding got left out of the grant money that was supposed to be with this. And so maybe it's going to be delayed a year, but for the most part, this is all going to be one big package when it's completed. But to give you a definite answer, we don't know for sure when or how, but the intent is that all of this will be done at the same time.
Okay. Thank you.
When do you think when do you anticipate having occupancy in the multifamily?
I'll let Josh handle that one. He said we're not planning on slowing down at all. We do have to go through some approval process. Well, I guess I said I'd let Josh.
Yeah, no. Let me jump in. I will tell you because we're 18. I think we would have it done in 2 years, to be realistic, because I think we would have our plans in. I'm giving ourselves 6 months for all design review and stuff like that. And then be able to turn dirt. And I think 18 months is a reasonable development time for a project of this size. I don't see anything keeping us from leaning in on it. So we've definitely increased our capacity here for a lot of the projects that we're doing already. So there's no disruption on our end. So in fact, our site for doing the manufacturing of all the units is sitting in Nampa. So this is all very approximate to what we do.
Okay. Yeah, and the reason I ask is because I mean, My issue isn't necessarily with what you're building out. It's just the lack of road infrastructure that comes in the form of Ustick and McMillan. I mean, they're a mess. They're a nightmare. For sure. So part of Ustick is going to be improved here in the next, they've got signs up to even start it. Luckily, they wanted to build a facility on Ustick Road so we could hold their feet to the fire on it, but unfortunately, it doesn't go out to this neck of the woods until 2026. So,
Yeah.
I mean, we've got a state highway that's coming in, and then we've got, essentially 2-lane country back roads that are there to support all of this stuff. So, and we're already feeling that. I mean, you're right. All the kids go elsewhere for lunch.
Yeah.
So good luck trying to get on those roads at lunchtime. So
Yeah.
that's an issue for me as far as the timing of this, to where it would be nice if all this would kind of congeal at the same time. 2026 is when ACHD is going to attack Ustick. State Highway 16 is going to go in supposedly before that. So I don't know. It just seems like our agencies are not coordinating very well to make this happen.
Yeah, Commissioner Yearsley, also along those lines, a lot, I don't want to say most, but most street improvements actually occur with development. So we will be improving McDermott Road, Ustick Road, providing a connection to the Aviator Springs subdivision to the north to provide some of that connectivity through the area. Hopefully, when the property to the west of us, the Flowers property, when that begins to redevelop, which I think as more development comes, that's going to speed that process up. We're going to get Endeavor Road that is stubbed to the Flowers property, hopefully connected through and connected to this project. And so a lot of the development or a lot of the infrastructure actually occurs when development happens. The developers build these roads and make these street improvements as they're adjacent to our property. Occasionally we have to do some offsite improvements, but usually it's adjacent to our project. And so, yeah, some of the bigger projects that ACHD tackles, some of that can be sped up if development happens along that road. And so we just view it as, yeah, we understand that their traffic is always an issue and a concern, but as development occurs, although it contributes some to the traffic, it also makes the improvements to the road that we all want to see happen.
So Chairman, Commissioners, the people that are much smarter than me said, realistically, we're going to be at 3 years for actual move-in dates for people. So if we're not even considering, approvals through City Council until December, January, we're really at that 2026, probably for actual move-ins and density for the project. So we've got construction to do, but I don't think we're very far off from some of these things happening. So.
Okay. Appreciate that.
Yeah.
Anything further? No. Commissioner Stoddard, do you have anything?
No, I just shared the same concerns about the traffic.
Okay.
So I guess before we close,
go ahead.
Close the public hearing. You have asked for a lot of conditions. Can we walk through those conditions?
Yeah.
Because I more than likely will have to make this motion.
Mr. Chair, members of the commission, before we get into the variance discussion, I just want to make a point that there has no variance application submitted for even the council to act on. So that's one step of the process. If they truly feel they need to go through that variance process, there's another application that needs to be a companion application as they transition to city council. Two, some of the landscape requirements can be modified through the alternative compliance process, which is not, it's staff level approval, not necessarily city council action. As far as the buffer requirement along the west side of the road for the western portion of the development, the road's the buffer. I'm not sure why we required a 25-foot landscape buffer when they're going to dedicate right away. It's historically, the code says when you abut a residential district. Well, when you have a road there, you're not abutting anything. You're adjacent. So it may not be required at this time. So I just want to be cognizant of that. And As far as the entryway corridor, that may not change. That is a comp plan requirement. So the comprehensive plan delineates entryway corridors on it regardless of the roadway designation. So the code dictates the width of the buffer and any entryway corridor regardless of the roadway classification is going to be 35 feet. So I don't want to give the applicant the impression that they may not have to lose lots, or they may have to potentially pick a different zone to get smaller lot sizes rather than go through that variance process. But there's a lot of moving parts there that we have to think about as we transition, because it's not as simple as we'll go through a variance and get 10% exception. It's a little more complicated than that.
Well,
So
and-
we need
and
to have a
to-
discussion to understand that a little bit more with the applicant so that we can send them down the right avenue.
Well, and to be honest with you, the only thing that I was looking for condition wise is the one access off of U stick that they're proposing not to have that buffer there. That was the only one that I was really willing to give.
Yeah.
So, so,
Perfect. If it's a public street, probably a non-issue.
hey. And then I guess for your condition, was there a condition that we need to change on your side?
I think that's up for discussion, debate too, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. As I mentioned, I know the intent of the applicant is to have the outdoor barbecue area. I mean, maybe just have a different terminology than outdoor kitchen. I think that's probably a better way to either strike it from the condition or just change what it actually will function as, which I think is an outdoor barbecue.
Yeah, I think we agree with Bill on that. The word to be struck, I think, is commercial, because it says it needs to be a commercial outdoor kitchen. We're providing what we think is a very robust outdoor barbecue area. It's not just a barbecue that you'd buy at Home Depot and put a propane tank there. They're multi-$1,000 barbecue grills set into concrete countertops with stainless steel prep area. Again, covered adjacent to a full commercial kitchen that's inside that has giant accordion doors that open and that makes it one big area. So our real concern was just the term commercial outdoor kitchen. We can't provide that, but we can provide a very robust outdoor covered barbecue area that is directly adjacent to. And again, I don't know, I think we meet all of the amenity requirements for a multifamily development anyway. I don't know that that's even, we're not deficient in that area to make that a requirement.
Well, I just want to make sure I get this correctly. Can I just say that we're just going to change the verbiage to commercial kitchen, outdoor commercial kitchen to outdoor barbecue, or, okay, awesome. So just glad to kind of walk through that before we close public hearing and I have to fumble through this. So thank you, guys.
Oh, thank you, guys. Thanks. Okay, thank you very much.
No. Mr. Chair, I move we close the public hearing for file number H 2022-0056.
Nope. Commissioner Stoddard, do I get a second?
Yeah, second, sorry.
It's been motioned and seconded to close the public hearing for file number H 2022-0056. All in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. Public hearing is closed for file number H 2022-0056.
So, Mr. Chair, for the residents that came here to testify, it's heartbreaking to see all this farmland to be chopped up into development, and the state highway did not do any of you guys any favors. And where there's access, they'll build, and so you guys are just kind of getting stuck into this area, and I feel for you. I honestly do. I grew up in a rural area of eastern Idaho, and watching it get chewed up is really heartbreaking. That being said, this is an area along the state highway where this type of a development is actually adequate, or it fits. And unfortunately, we have so much rural around it is it's a tough situation. I do think it's actually a good development. I think it's something that I think fits close to the state highway, close to the school. I think their commercial is gonna want to be one of the first things built, to be honest with you, because I think the demand there is there for some sort of fast food or some convenient foods type situation. So for that, I am in favor with it, of the application.
Yeah, and I've got mixed feelings on it. So, I mean, we've seen enough of these come through that there's, whether people want to admit it or not, there is a need for housing types like this out here. So, the fact that it's gonna eat up a whole lot of land that's farmland right now, just like people have property rights for their individual properties, people have property rights to sell it and develop it. So that's the flip side to all of this. So, I mean, I grew up in Baker, Oregon, so this is all very foreign to me on a lot of scale, for sure. So, that said, it is what's coming and happening here. So the only problem that I have with it, and I do agree because of Highway 16 and the way that that's going to develop, that it does fit when that gets done. So again, the issue that I have with it right now is, Ustick is already, it's just very overtaxed. I mean, again, we were able to kind of hold ACHD's feet to the fire when they presented their development that they want to put in order to provide for ACHD facilities on Ustick Road to expand that. Unfortunately, it only went to Black Cat. So with the high school coming in, it's made things very unique out there. So it's doing exactly what they wanted to do. They put in a high school. It's drawing a lot of development out in that area. So unfortunately, it's happening faster than I think the roads can put up with at this point. So, I mean, if we could really know that this wasn't going to have occupancy until, the roads are improved in 2026, I wouldn't have an issue with it. Again, it's coming, it's going to happen here, but I question the timing of it. So, I mean, my fear is, that they get in on they're on the leaner side of it at 18 months, and all of a sudden we have all of this in here. We have occupancy going on, and we still have Ustick Road the way it is today. There's no way, especially with the way you have to come in and out of this, that Ustick Road's going to be able to support that very well.
Right, and that's why a lot of the questions I had initially was timing and
Yeah.
with the interchange as well. So I do believe I know that this project is funded. They are moving forward with it. It's just which one comes first.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Mr. Chair.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yes, I just kind of share a lot of the same feelings as you. I have mixed feelings on the project as well. I think the timing of it might be a little off. I use Ustick Road every day driving by there, and I know how much it gets used. And so it's a tough one for me. I agree that I think we need, some options out there for commercial stuff, but my biggest concern, again, is the timing on the traffic. I completely agree with you and share your sentiments on that. Just because, like I said, I use it every single day and I see the traffic on there and I see how taxed it gets, especially with that high school right there. When, they're going in and out of there, it's a nightmare right now.
Yep. It's a tough one. For sure. So there's only 3 of us talking about it tonight. So.
And unfortunately, Mr. Chair, after considering all staff applicant and public testimony, I move to recommend approval to the City Council of file number H 2022-0056 as presented in the staff report for the hearing date of November 3rd, 2022, with the following modifications: that the term outdoor commercial kitchen be stricken and replaced with outdoor barbecue, and that the road buffer off of Ustick Road on the west side of the facility that buffer be reduced so they can provide that access.
Commissioner Stoddard, you want a second?
No.
Okay. So since the chair can neither make nor second motions, we're stuck here, so.
Chairman, you are allowed to second. It's customary. The chairperson does not do that, but you are allowed to second if you wish to bring the item to a vote.
I will second it. So it's been moved and seconded to approve item number H 2022-0056 with the aforementioned modifications. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Commissioner Stoddard?
May wish to vote
I'm not
nay.
giving an eye.
I was gonna say, if it's not an aye, it's a nay.
Okay, nay.
Motion passes.
Commissioner Sale,
Commissioner Lorcher?
may I motion to adjourn?
No.
I will second that motion.
I'm gonna say, it's been moved and seconded to adjourn. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned. Thank you. That was quick. Caught me off guard. I'm like, it's like, oh, am I missing something?